A convoy of carriages rolls through the mountains. Inside, a blonde girl is busy trying to establish the pecking order. She points out they are both 12 and wonders who gets to be the older sibling. But our dark-haired boy could not care less. He casually tells her she can take the older sister title if she wants, completely throwing her off guard. He rests his chin on his hand and offers her the younger sibling spot instead. She gets totally flustered, reminding him that they are supposed to be family from now on. That word strikes a nerve. As he stares out the rainy window, he reflects on the concept. He might be joining a new household today, but he used to have a real family of his own. The story flashes back 12 years to a massive stormy castle. Our boy introduces himself as Boris Jinman, the second son of the local lord. Inside, a grim funeral is underway for his mother. The mood is heavy, and the only one keeping the deceased company tonight is a maid holding newborn baby Boris. A stern-looking man stands nearby as the narration reveals the Jinmans are a highly renowned martial household. The narrator predicts this little potato will grow up to be an absolute unit of a warrior. He is destined to inherit the family's legendary hand-me-downs. We are talking about the shiny armor Snowguard and the glowing sword Winterer. He will have to share the loot with his older brother Yevgen. Their mom just kicked the bucket and their dad looks like he absolutely despises second-born children. But luckily, Yevgen is a total sweetheart who showers his little bro with all the love and affection he needs. But it is not all sunshine and rainbows. Their nation of Travaches is currently speedrunning a bloody revolution with bodies dropping daily. Plus they have a crazy exiled uncle plotting his ultimate revenge arc while drawing on maps. Meanwhile, our boy is just catching some Z's, completely oblivious to the absolute chaos waiting for him. The narrator drops a heavy promise. Even if a bloodbath wipes them out, someone will survive to dish out some serious payback. We get a flash forward of a slightly older Boris gripping that glowing sword with murder in his eyes. The Jinman family never forgets. They remember the love and kindness of their people, but they also remember the dark, twisted forces of hatred and vengeance. The narrator makes one final desperate plea to the young master. Out of everyone in this messed-up world, he is the one who absolutely must survive. The scene cuts to a freezing, snowy mountain where a white-haired dude drops the ultimate mandate on our boy. He looks Boris dead in the eye and tells him he absolutely has to survive no matter what. We then flash forward to an older blue-haired traveler walking down a sunny path. The narration demands that he survives until the bitter end. An open door reveals a glowing sword on a pedestal as the voice declares that the Chosen One is strictly forbidden from kicking the bucket. We kick things off on a dark and stormy night at the Jinman estate. Inside, a maid is busy traumatizing our boy Boris. She grabs his tiny hands and drops some heavy lore, warning the second son of the family to absolutely never go near the local lake. Apparently there is a creepy wraith with glowing red eyes just chilling in the water waiting to snack on wandering kids. She begs him to stay far away from Lake Emera. Cut to a bright sunny day where Boris is touching grass with his older brother Yevgen. The older bro asks if the nurse has been feeding him those spooky stories again. Boris admits everyone keeps warning him about the red wraith. Yevgen just listens for a second before reaching over and aggressively squishing his little brother's cheek. He tells the kid not to sweat it. Flashing a blinding protagonist smile, Yevgen promises that he will always be there to protect him. Boris looks up at his big bro, totally buying into the wholesome vibes, and flashes a massive smile right back. The older brother is basically a golden retriever in human form, constantly babying our boy and shooing away literal birds from his messy hair. He pokes the kid with a wooden sword to kick off their promised training session. The older brother flashes a blinding protagonist smile while our boy grips his own wooden stick, looking like he is about to fight for his life. He charges in with a battle cry but gets instantly parried. The older brother just casually grabs his head like a basketball as he runs past. They clash swords in a surprisingly fast-paced spar. The older brother praises his footwork while our boy is just having the time of his life actually getting to play outside. Deciding that swordplay is for nerds, the kid just straight up tackles his brother to the ground. They roll down the grassy hill like a couple of tumbleweeds and end up lying side by side in the dirt. They just laugh it off and catch their breath, completely oblivious to the absolute hater watching them from the window. Up in the gloomy estate, a retainer points out how much the two brothers adore each other. But their dad, the head of the family, is not having any of this wholesome bonding. He scoffs at the display, thinking it is absolutely pathetic for the future heir to be rolling around in the grass instead of studying the blade. Back inside the fancy estate, the family head is watching from a window and absolutely roasting his oldest son. He calls the kid pathetic for goofing off when he should be acting like a proper heir. But before he can keep complaining, a sudden grunt interrupts his boomer rant. Out on the grass, the boys are getting ready to spar. The older brother tells our boy to grip his wooden sword tight. But during the clash, the kid gets a little too eager and lunges right into his brother's guard. The older bro tries to warn him to back off, but it is too late and the kid takes a massive tumble. The older brother immediately drops down to check on him and apologizes profusely for messing up. Our boy is just lying there realizing this is the first time he has ever felt genuine fear during their play fights. But before they can brush it off, someone starts screaming their names from across the yard. A servant comes sprinting over looking like he just saw a ghost. He is completely out of breath, but he manages to gasp out one name that makes the older brother freeze in absolute shock. Uncle Vlado is back in town. Our boy's spidey senses are tingling, and that gut feeling of absolute dread is hitting him like a freight train. Cut to the family estate getting absolutely drenched in a thunderstorm. A cloaked figure rolls up to the front gates, and the guard dog immediately starts tweaking. The guy just scoffs, asking how the mutt could forget its old master so quickly. A flash of lightning reveals the exiled uncle himself, looking like he just crawled out of a villain origin story. Inside the mansion, the head of the family is sitting in his study looking like he would rather be anywhere else. His butler steps up and asks if they should actually let the exiled traitor inside the house. The boss just narrows his eyes, already completely exhausted by the incoming family drama. The heavy double doors creak open and muddy boots step onto the pristine floorboards. The uncle struts down the massive rug like he owns the place, dramatically announcing that the time has finally come to face his big brother. The family head just rests his chin on his hands, completely unbothered, and flat out tells the guy he is shocked he is even still breathing. The uncle just flashes a wicked smirk, asking if his big bro is disappointed to see him crashing the party. The exiled little bro struts right into the Lord's office like he owns the place. He casually roasts the outdated decor and demands some drinks since he rushed half a day just to have a little chat. 2 silver goblets hit the table. Taking a seat across from his very unamused older brother, the guy takes a slow sip. He decides to play some mind games and asks if the Lord remembers the good old days when they were just kids. You know, back when they used to skip out on their training to spar with wooden swords and goof off in the hills. Of course, being the eldest son meant the Lord took all the heat from their dad for not acting like a proper heir. The Lord is absolutely not here for a trip down memory lane and demands to know what his brother actually wants. The exile just chuckles at his impatience. Fed up, the Lord slams his own cup down so hard the drink splashes everywhere, telling him to cut the crap and get straight to business. Leaning back in his chair like a total boss, the younger brother drops the bomb. He announces that the prince he is backing is about to become the chief elector. And with an entire faction of heavy hitters standing behind him, he is making it crystal clear that the Lord is officially on the losing side. The stern Lord has zero patience for this cryptic garbage and orders his exiled brother to get out. But the long-haired visitor just smirks. He casually reminds the Lord that this mansion does not actually belong to him anymore since he threw his rights away years ago. That strikes a massive nerve. The Lord snaps and accuses his brother of forgetting about their sister Yanichka, who died an unfair death because of him. The visitor just bursts into a mocking laugh before his eyes glow a dangerous yellow. He asks if her death was really his fault. The Lord furiously screams that she would still be alive today if it was not for his toxic presence. A brief memory flashes of their beautiful sister smiling in a sunlit field. The guilt hits the visitor hard and he groans in distress, but he quickly recovers and screams right back that the one who actually went crazy and killed her was the Lord himself. The accusation makes the stern man tremble with absolute rage as he grips his silver goblet. He violently shatters the cup and splashes his drink everywhere while screaming at his brother for making such ridiculous excuses. The visitor calmly wipes the booze off his face and notes that his older brother is still as awful as ever. He then drops a heavy truth bomb. In a cursed household like theirs, he wonders if the Lord really thinks his 2 precious sons will end up any different from them. The Lord just glares with pure murder in his eyes and orders him out. The uncle grips his chair so hard the wood splinters. He drops the act and gives his older brother one final ultimatum. Since they are family, he is willing to let bygones be bygones and have the chief elector look the other way. All the Lord has to do is hand over the family's legendary treasure. Yeah, that is a hard pass. The Lord tells his brother to get the hell out of his house. He draws his sword and points it right at the exile, swearing he would rather get his head split open than hand over a single thing. The uncle just smirks at the blade. He calls his brother a total fool and turns his back to leave. He promises to take absolutely everything from him and walks out the door to see just how long the Lord can actually last. The Lord does not waste a single second. He immediately orders his butler Yolk to start making preparations. He grips the window curtains tight and stares out into the storm, knowing it is officially time to go to war. Outside, the rain starts pouring down like crazy. Inside the mansion, things are already hitting the fan. The older brother scoops up our boy and sprints down the hallway in an absolute panic. He asks a passing servant where their dad is and finds out he is up on the 2nd floor. They rush to the room and a guard throws the door open so they can get inside. The older brother bursts into a room carrying our boy. He declares it is time to bust out the family's ultimate trump card, the Winterbottom kit. The kid is just trying to process what is happening. Time for a quick lore drop on this legendary gear. It is made up of the Snowguard armor, which was apparently stolen after a 99 kill streak, and the Winterer, a glowing sword passed down through the bloodline. The older brother goes full secret agent, shoving a massive wardrobe aside to reveal a hidden stash. He reaches in and pulls out the legendary blade, handing it straight to our boy and officially passing the torch to the next generation. Flashback time. The Stern family head leads his oldest son down a dark candlelit staircase to reveal a massive family secret. Little do they know our boy is playing ninja and eavesdropping from behind the door. The big reveal is the legendary Winterbottom kit. The older brother is stunned it actually exists, proving his dad's gaslighting skills are top tier. The old man explains their grandpa split the glowing sword and armor between him and his exiled brother, hoping they would play nice. Spoiler alert, they absolutely did not, and the gear only hits max stats when equipped together. The father drops some heavy expectations on his heir. Since the kid is turning 20, he needs to step up. The old man looks him dead in the eye and gives him one grim directive. If the family ever goes up in flames, he is to grab the loot and run. He has to survive and protect the heirloom no matter the cost. The little brother takes all this heavy lore in from the shadows. Later on, the older brother brings him in to check out the shiny new toys. He introduces the sword as Winterer and the armor as Snowguard, asking the kid which piece of the legendary kit he thinks has the better drip. Young Boris is checking out the family loot. He decides the armor is way too clunky and calls dibs on the glowing sword instead. His older brother is totally on board with this and offers to pass down the legendary Winterer once the kid actually hits puberty. He tells the boy to give it a test drive. But the legendary blade is a bit too hefty for noodle arms here. The tip clangs right onto the floor. Big Bro steps in to help him lift the glowing popsicle stick. He hypes the kid up and officially declares it his future weapon. Because of that core memory, our boy grew up low-key believing the sword was his birthright. But looking at it now, he knows he is just a kid playing dress-up. He thinks the blade really belongs to his brother. Suddenly, reality crashes the nostalgia trip. His brother grabs his shoulders and tells him their old man totally called this crisis. They need to stick to the escape plan because a full-blown family rebellion is kicking off. This triggers another flashback to a chat with the family butler. The old guy drops some heavy truth bombs on the kid. He explains that family civil wars do not have good guys or bad guys, just winners and losers. He warns that when the bodies drop, nobody gets punished and nobody sheds a tear. He tells the young master that as a true member of this cutthroat bloodline, he will eventually understand the assignment. Back in the present, our boy is rocking a nasty bruise on his neck. His older brother scoops up the glowing family heirloom, telling the kid he is just borrowing the legendary sword for a quick sec. The kid grips his bedsheets and flashes a tragic little smile. He is already accepting his fate, just hoping his big bro will be the one to shed a tear for him when he inevitably kicks the bucket. But the older brother is not having any of this doom and gloom. He grabs the kid by the shoulders and drops to one knee to look him dead in the eye. He promises to hand the shiny sword right back the second this whole messy family rebellion wraps up. The kid just stares up at him, still looking like a totally kicked puppy. The older brother leans in and presses their foreheads together. He reminds the kid that the giant glowing sword is way too heavy for his noodle arms right now anyway, so he needs to stop stressing. He pulls the boy into a tight hug and our kid finally lets himself melt into the comfort. But the wholesome brotherly bonding gets violently cut short. A massive roar echoes from outside, lighting up the night sky with a fiery glow. The older brother stares out the window and mutters that the invasion has officially started. They both freeze up as the reality of their crazy uncle's attack finally hits them. Outside the estate, the invading army is already at the gates. They wave their torches around like it is a medieval rave and demand the family surrender to their new master. But the Stern family head is not about to roll over for his exiled brother. He looks out at his loyal soldiers holding the line, throws open the window, and steps out onto the balcony to give the invaders a piece of his mind. The enemy troops spot him up there, but before they can do anything, a long-haired mage steps up and unleashes a massive spell called White Flame. The magic fire blasts across the battlefield, completely wrecking the front lines. The invading soldiers start panicking and screaming as the flames tear through their ranks. One of the enemy commanders tries to get his guys to stop running away. He yells at them to push forward, asking if they really think the great Geneman family would fall to a ragtag group like them. While the defenders hold the high ground, the enemy commander down below is suddenly cut off by a massive tremor. He whips around, absolutely terrified as he stares at an incoming nightmare. Because a gigantic ice snake just spawned out of a magic circle. This absolute unit of a reptile smashes right through the estate, letting out a deafening roar that has the invaders completely paralyzed with fear. The armored commander realizes they are dealing with some serious heavy hitters. He recognizes the summoner as Jongnol, the archmage of Chief Elector Khan. He is absolutely floored that Khan would lend his top-tier mage to his exiled brother. It means the enemy's political backing is way more secure than he thought. Total chaos breaks out. Orders are screamed to evacuate the mansion while the second squad holds the line. Then a massive crystal serpent just absolutely obliterates the tower. The commander hauls ass with the fleeing crowd, knowing evacuation is the only play right now. But then he suddenly stops dead in his tracks. He grabs the young boy. The older brother protests, but the dad completely shuts him down. He screams at the older brother, asking how he expects to survive and escape while dragging a kid around. He reminds the young man of the legendary treasure he is supposed to be protecting right now. The older brother is left standing there, completely torn and holding back tears. The dad doesn't wait for an answer. He just drags the kid away as a massive pile of rubble crashes down, completely blocking the path between the two brothers. The guards yell for them to keep moving, and the little guy is left panting for his life as he gets dragged through the escape route. The stern father lays down the ultimate law. He tells his oldest son that no matter what happens in these final moments, he has to survive and protect the family armor. The older brother sweats bullets under the heavy pressure. But our boy Boris gets a terrible gut feeling. He watches his brother sprint down the dark corridor with their glowing heirloom sword and just knows something awful is about to go down. Outside, absolute chaos erupts. A massive crystal serpent bursts through the estate roof, sending the locals running for their lives while the guards charge in with spears to fight a literal kaiju. From a safe distance, the escapees take a breather, relieved that most of the staff made it out alive. But that relief lasts about 2 seconds. A deafening crash echoes through the night as the entire mansion completely caves in under the magical assault. The armored commander watches his home get reduced to rubble and absolutely loses his mind. He grits his teeth so hard they might shatter, screaming into the night that he will never forgive his bastard brother for this betrayal. The loyalist commander is absolutely fuming, but the enemy mage just flexes his mana, projecting a magical livestream of the invading army rushing their position. Knowing they are sitting ducks, the commander orders his remaining troops to split up and ambush the entrances. Our boy is terrified of the giant ice snake currently leveling his zip code, but the commander assures him the beast is half stuck in another dimension and cannot actually touch the living. Still, the kid is sweating bullets. While the smug mage keeps spamming spells under the moonlight, the squad goes full stealth mode through the tall grass. The commander pulls our boy aside for some final instructions, and the kid gulps down his fear. He tells the kid to make a run for Lake Amara. Our boy is instantly shook, protesting that his nanny told him an evil spirit lives there. The commander absolutely roasts him for believing in old maid's ghost stories when he is supposed to be a man of the Jinman family. He points out that thanks to that stupid rumor, nobody goes near the lake, making it the ultimate VIP safe zone. The commander points out a cluster of 3 black trees near the lake as the ultimate VIP hiding spot. Our boy swallows hard. He is still sweating over his nanny's spooky ghost stories. The armored guy just glares at him. With a massive roar, the commander orders his squad to rush the east entrance. The soldiers charge straight into the meat grinder. He turns back to our frozen protagonist and screams at him to get his legs moving. This is no time to stand around like a deer in headlights. Squeezing his eyes shut, the kid finally locks in. He sprints through the tall grass, desperately trying to convince himself that the old maid was just capping about the lake spirits. The battlefield is an absolute meat grinder right now, with that giant ice snake turning the estate into a frozen wasteland. But amidst the chaos, someone is having the time of his life. The exiled uncle struts through the carnage with a grin that screams completely unhinged. He draws his blade and starts slicing through the loyalist guards like they are made of wet paper. Stepping on a fallen soldier, he starts airing out the family laundry. He screams out for his brother, complaining about how he was treated like a criminal and robbed of his inheritance. He calls the family head a scared little rat for hiding. But his tantrum is cut short when an enemy grunt spots their target. The crazy uncle whips around, ready to finally settle this petty sibling rivalry once and for all as he marches up the hill. A whole squad of goons charges down the slope, screaming to strike down the lord of the estate. The slick-back dad is panting heavily and clearly running on fumes, but he is not going down without a fight. He swings his massive sword and absolutely cleaves through the front line, proving that even past his prime, he is still a total menace on the battlefield. Yurkin is out here screaming threats like he is the main character, but he completely forgets to check his 6. His exiled brother Vlado slides in from behind and gives him a free piercing. Vlado is having the time of his life, slicing and dicing his older brother while roasting him for being washed up and old. Yurkin is stumbling around, coughing up a lung. One of Yurkin's loyal goons tries to play hero, but Vlado just swings his sword, ready for a 2-for-1 special. But before he can secure the double kill, a massive rumble shakes the battlefield. A thick mist rolls in out of nowhere, blinding all the soldiers. Turns out it is a tactical retreat. Vlado and his pocket mage activate a glowing blue magic circle, getting ready to teleport out of this mess while Jurkin just has to stand there and watch. The exiled brother swings his blade in a blind rage, but he is a second too late. The armored lord and his ally dip out through a blue teleportation circle, leaving the exile swinging at empty air. He screams his brother's name into the night, completely losing his mind over the ultimate rage quit. Meanwhile, our boy is sprinting through the creepy midnight woods like his life depends on it, because it literally does. He finally spots the massive black tree trunk his commander told him to use as a rendezvous point. He ducks behind the thick bark, praying his backup actually shows up. Sliding down to the dirt, he tries to catch his breath and get his heart rate out of the danger zone. He just has to wait here until the coast is clear. But sitting alone in a pitch-black forest is basically a horror movie waiting to happen. Suddenly, a nasty rustling noise echoes through the trees. His blood runs ice cold. That definitely does not sound like a friendly rescue party. Our boy finally reaches the designated hiding spot behind a massive tree trunk. He catches his breath but immediately hears an ominous rustling nearby. He freezes up in pure terror, wondering if it is his dad or an enemy soldier coming to finish the job. Spoiler alert, it is neither. A massive red tentacle whips out of the darkness and snatches him right around the waist. He gets yanked off his feet and dragged into the shadows, screaming for his life. He realizes with absolute horror that the childhood rumors were completely true. As he gets swung through the air like a rag doll, he comes face to face with a skeletal monstrosity. The legendary evil spirit of the lake is very real, and it looks like it wants a midnight snack. Our boy is currently wrapped up in some nasty red tentacles. Turns out his old nursemaid wasn't capping about the creepy lake monster. He stares down this giant bug-eyed freak and realizes his dad totally sent him to a death trap. He squeezes his eyes shut and screams for his life because nobody wants to go out as fish food. But right before he becomes a midnight snack, a massive glowing slash rips through the air. The attack cleanly severs the tentacles and slices right through the monster's ugly mug. A silhouetted swordsman follows through on that heavy strike. Our boy hits the dirt hard. He gets absolutely drenched in monster blood and lets out a terrified squeak. Gasping for air, he looks up to see his mysterious savior standing tall in the dark forest with a glowing blade. The guy steps closer and looms over him under the light of the full moon. But instead of looking like a badass hero, the dude is absolutely panicking. It is his older brother Yevgen. Our boy is completely confused for a second before his brother drops the sword and pulls him into a desperate bear hug. The older brother pulls the kid into an absolute death grip. He is completely losing his mind, realizing our boy almost just became Monster Calamari. The kid is just standing there wide-eyed and tearing up from the shock. He grabs him by the shoulders and demands to know why their dad sent him into the murder forest all by himself. Our boy sniffles and says it was strict orders to protect the family's shiny heirloom sword. The blonde swordsman wipes the monster blood off his cheek and drops some heavy truth. He completely disagrees with their old man because treasures are temporary but family is forever. When the kid asks how he even found him in the pitch-black woods, he just hits him with that warm older brother smile and says it is because they are family. But before they can cue the wholesome background music, a massive blue flash of light goes off right behind them. Both of them instantly snap to high alert. The older brother gets straight to business and reveals their crazy uncle is not acting alone. He is actually backed by the chief elector who supplied the entire army of mages and soldiers currently burning their house down. The older brother drops the lore. The big boss Khan sent his personal mages and a literal ice dragon to wipe out their dad and steal the family drip. Their old man knew this hit was coming all along. That is exactly why he told them to dip. But right on cue, a portal rips open and out stumbles a loyal retainer carrying their heavily wounded dad. The kid absolutely loses it. The retainer delivers the bad news. The old man got tagged with a nasty poison that completely blocks healing magic. He then turns to the older brother and asks why he is just standing around looking nervous. The older brother stammers like he forgot his lines. They sit the bleeding lord down. The retainer gets dead serious and warns them about that bright flash they just saw. It is a massive tracking spell from the enemy mage. Their location is completely compromised, and the older brother pulls the kid close as the enemy closes in. Yevgen asks what the play is now. The gray-robed guy looks grim. The wounded soldier who is actually their dad is coughing up blood. He has been poisoned by a special rune that blocks healing magic, making spells completely useless. The two older men share a silent, solemn nod, knowing exactly what has to be done. The gray-robed guy summons a glowing blue portal and tells the older brother to take the kid and go. Yevgen hesitates for a second but grips the glowing sword tight. He remembers his dad's final order to protect the family and their treasures at all costs. Meanwhile, a group of riders is galloping through the dark forest. The crazy uncle with the yellow eyes is absolutely furious when he hears the boys went to Lake Emera. And there is a good reason for that reaction. Lake Emera is a banned place for their people. It is the terrible place that took their only sister years ago. Happy memories of kids playing in a sunny field quickly turn into panicking maids and a screaming girl being dragged away into the dark, leaving only a single pink shoe behind. Flashback time to the good old days when this family wasn't actively trying to murder each other. The little blonde sister is playing hide-and-seek with her older brothers, and everyone is just frolicking in the grass like a bunch of dorks. She was the only thing keeping these two knuckleheads from tearing each other apart. Whether she was passing out in a wardrobe with a half-eaten apple or forcing them to hold hands and make up after a fight, she ran the show. But fast forward a bit and the vibes are completely ruined. The younger brother with the ponytail is absolutely losing his mind at the older brother in the suit. He is furious that they are marrying their sister off to some sketchy family. Suit guy just rubs his temples and says they have to wish her happiness. Ponytail guy is not having it and decides to cook up his own toxic scheme. His brilliant plan is to just straight up gaslight his sister. He grabs her and drops a fake bomb that her fiancé is heading straight for the Forbidden Lake. Naturally, she panics and bolts out the door to save him. Ponytail guy smirks, thinking he is an absolute mastermind. His grand plan is in motion as the poor girl sprints straight toward the creepy forest. Vlado reveals his big brain scheme. He just wanted his goon to snatch his sister up on the road so she could not leave the estate. A classic kidnapping to stop a wedding. What could go wrong? Well, everything goes wrong. A maid comes screaming through the grass because the young lady actually made it to the lake and got snatched up by the evil spirits. She is looking absolutely demonic right now, and our guy starts sweating bullets. The family head shoves past his brother, telling him to move. Vlado is panicking and screaming for a medic, but the dad drops the cold hard truth. She is already gone. The dad is absolutely furious. He grits his teeth and tells Vlado that even if he hated the engagement, he crossed a line that should never be crossed. The brother tries to backtrack, saying he had no idea the lake spirits were actually real. But the family head does not care about his weak excuses. He orders everyone back to the estate while the guards hold the traitor back. The dad draws his sword because the only cure for a demonic possession is a quick death, and Vlado can only scream in horror as his brother prepares to do the unthinkable. The stern father raises his blade with zero hesitation. He coldly declares that the only cure for an evil spirit's madness is a swift death. He brings the sword down on his own daughter, leaving the exiled uncle screaming his lungs out in absolute horror. The old man does not even flinch as he yells at the traitor to back off. Back in the present, the invading commander orders his goons to search the lake thoroughly. But before they can even dip their toes in the dirt, a massive shadow drops over them. A literal horde of screaming ghouls bursts out of the ground like a twisted flash mob. The soldiers immediately nope out of there, leaving their boss screaming at them for being pathetic cowards. He starts slicing through the endless wave of rotting corpses himself, cursing the fact that they just keep respawning. Covered in black blood and panting like a dog, he recognizes that disgusting stench. It is the unmistakable smell of Lake Amara's curse. Deep in the dark waters, the glowing red eyes of the lake's true evil spirit lock onto its next prey. The commander vows to slaughter every last monster in his path. Meanwhile, a bright blue flash cuts through the forest. The older brother stands his ground with the family heirloom, ready to throw down his life to protect his little brother and their heavily injured dad. The dark-haired ally warns that the enemy is closing in fast and they are about to be spotted. But Yevgen steps up with a resolute look. He declares he is going to stay behind to buy time for his little brother and their heavily bleeding dad. Gripping the glowing family heirloom sword, Yevgen prepares for the worst. Their dad spits blood but stubbornly insists he has things he wants to protect too. Yevgen turns to our boy Boris, asking if he understands the assignment, but the kid is just standing there completely stunned. Boris flashes back to a time he spied on his dad and brother with that exact sword. He admits to himself that he actually kind of hates his older brother, but he also knows he does not want to survive alone in a world without his family. Yevgen flashes a gentle smile under the moonlight and tells Boris to think of it as a glorious choice to die together on their own terms, which honestly just traumatizes the kid even more. Yevgen draws the glowing blade and looks back one last time. The dark-haired ally keeps a firm grip on their injured father, refusing to give up until the bitter end. Boris stares up at his brother, finally realizing that Yevgen's bright smiles always came with a terrible premonition. Our boy looks back at his older brother's unusually bright smile. It is the kind of smile that just screams death flag in a world like this. He finally understands that his brother is fully prepared to go down with the ship. Fast forward to the dead of night. The squad is limping their way toward the cursed lake. The old man is barely holding it together, panting heavily as he leans on his loyal retainer. But he is not here to just run away. He is looking for someone. He stares into the dark water, haunted by the memory of his little sister sinking into a watery grave of skeletons. He calls out Yenny's name, hoping her soul is still in there somewhere after being snatched by that evil spirit. But family reunions in this universe are never wholesome. The exiled uncle rolls up with his mage buddy, ready to talk some premium trash. He mocks the old man for finally showing up after stabbing their sister in the heart and tossing her away without a grave. The old man demands he own up to his crimes, but the uncle just flashes a villainous grin, asking if he came all this way just to beg for forgiveness. Talk time is officially over. The old man lunges forward with his sword drawn. The uncle is absolutely living for it, declaring they are going to settle this age-old grudge right here and now, even if it means fighting until the red-eyed lake monster crashes the party. The exiled uncle is out for blood, swinging his blade at his armored brother with zero hesitation. Meanwhile, the estate is an absolute war zone. Mages are throwing up blue force fields to hold back the undead horde, and the enemy wizard is just casually roasting everything in sight with massive fire spells. But the real heat is between the brothers. The uncle screams out, asking if the family head still blames him for what happened in the past. He brings his sword down hard, forcing his brother to block the heavy strike. The uncle is absolutely losing it, screaming that he wasn't the one who took their sister's life. He points the finger straight at his brother. We get a quick flash of the tragic sister before the armored dad completely snaps. He declares they are ending this family feud right here and now. He lunges forward with terrifying speed, putting all his weight into a massive counterattack that sends the green-cloaked uncle flying back. Cut back to our boys, who are currently surrounded by a literal army of ghouls. The older blonde brother is gripping his sword, muttering frantically to himself about the red-eyed evil spirit that took their aunt. He is desperately trying to figure out how to protect his little bro. Hearing this, the dark-haired kid freezes up. He asks the one question nobody wants the answer to. Was the monster they killed in the forest not the actual evil spirit? The older brother is dripping with cold sweat. He does not say a word, but his hands are violently shaking around the hilt of their legendary family sword. The younger sibling just looks down in absolute despair, realizing his big brother is completely terrified. The heavy words of their old man echo in the blonde brother's head. He was told that he alone needs to survive to protect the family heirloom. No pressure or anything. He sweats bullets just thinking about the massive target on his back. Our boy grips his sword tight, ready to tank the first hit from whatever evil spirit is lurking around so his big bro can make it out alive. But before he can even play the hero, a blinding blue light erupts from his brother's armor. The kid gasps in shock as the legendary gear starts reacting on its own. The older brother is completely engulfed in this insane holy aura while gripping the glowing sword. He realizes the real threat has finally arrived. Our boy is left totally confused by the sudden flashbang, wondering what the heck just happened. He desperately screams out for his brother, but the guy is just standing there frozen in front of this massive, ominous red mist. Suddenly, a super creepy laugh echoes out from the dark abyss, sending absolute chills down the kid's spine. A sinister voice calls him a beautiful child right as these giant bloodshot eyes snap open in the darkness. The kid is left gasping in pure unadulterated terror as the nightmare fuel stares right into his soul. Our boy jolts awake with a massive gasp. He looks around completely lost. Instead of a terrifying dark lake, he is chilling in a beautiful sunny meadow with his horse and sword. He has absolutely no clue how he got here. Suddenly, he spots a familiar figure waving from the hill. It is his older brother Yevgen walking over with a fresh bowl of water. He smiles warmly and asks if our boy had a nightmare. Boris is completely stunned. Without a second thought, he launches himself forward and tackles his brother to the ground. The water bowl goes flying as Boris buries his face into Yevgen's chest and bursts into tears. Yevgen just smiles and gently wraps his arms around his little bro. But mid-hug reality starts creeping back in. Boris suddenly realizes something is very wrong. Just a second ago, they were at Lake Amara. His dad was locked in a brutal deathmatch with their crazy uncle Vlado. And he and Yevgen were completely surrounded by a horde of screaming zombies. He pulls back and stares at his brother, wondering what the heck actually happened. The older brother strolls up with a bowl of water looking like he just stepped out of a shampoo commercial. He cheerfully points out that our boy slept like a rock, but the kid is immediately panicking. He demands to know where their dad is. The blonde brother drops the smile and admits things went completely sideways. Everyone got scattered during the chaos and their dad is officially MIA. The kid clutches his head, realizing they are totally stranded in the middle of nowhere. While the older brother casually plays with a blade of grass, the kid pitches a desperate survival plan. He begs to just lay low and live like regular commoners instead of asking strangers for help. The older brother gently reminds him that the peasants absolutely hate nobles right now, so playing pretend is not exactly a safe bet. But the kid insists they just need to stay quiet until their dad sends a rescue squad. This super serious tactical meeting is immediately interrupted by the loudest stomach growl known to man. The older brother completely loses it and bursts out laughing at the kid's tragic timing. Cut to the local watering hole where the vibes are loud and the hygiene is questionable. The tavern keeper and her regulars immediately stop and stare as our two pampered rich kids walk through the door looking like absolute snacks for the local bullies. The two brothers finally make it to a local tavern, but they stick out like a sore thumb. The tavern keeper immediately clocks them as easy marks and flashes a slice grin that has our blonde boy sweating bullets. Proving her right, he slaps down a solid gold coin to pay for a room. The keeper is absolutely thrilled while the local drunks start whispering about why these rich kids are slumming it in a commoner bar. The keeper hands over the keys and asks what they want to eat, and our boy nervously tells her to just whip up whatever she wants. Big mistake. The dark-haired kid whips around in shock as the tavern patrons start openly mocking them. They laugh it up and suggest these pampered little lords should just go home and eat baby food instead. Suddenly, a bowl is slammed down right in front of our shocked boy. A rough-looking local flashes a malicious grin and tells the young masters to let him know how it tastes. The kid covers his mouth in sheer disgust as he looks down at his meal. It is a literal bowl of wriggling maggots. Welcome to the real world, kid. The dark-haired kid jumps at a sudden crash. One of the smug locals decides to mess with the sheltered rich kids, mocking them for never eating real food. He saunters over and throws a condescending hand on the blonde brother's shoulder, offering to teach him some manners. Yeah, that is a hard pass. The blonde brother instantly swats the grubby hand away and hits the guy with a glare so cold it could freeze hell over. The patron tries to play it cool, laughing to his buddy that the kid just wants him to take the first bite. Big mistake, buddy. In a flash, the blonde brother grabs the punk by the back of the neck and violently slams his face straight into the wooden table. The entire tavern freezes in shock as he pins the guy down, coldly telling him to enjoy the house specialty. The thug screams for his life as a spoonful of wriggling juicy maggots is shoved right up to his lips. The dark-haired kid watches the brutal scene unfold in absolute horror, panting in shock as he realizes just how ruthless his older brother can be. The blonde guy is absolutely not having it. He looks up with pure murder in his eyes and snatches the loudmouth right by the throat. Dropping the nasty spoon, he coldly notes that it takes some serious guts to try and force-feed someone a bowl of literal bugs. With the trash taken out, he tells Boris it is time to bounce. But the local tavern rats are not letting them leave that easily. They charge in screaming like absolute toddlers. Our guy does not even flinch. He just whips around and starts handing out free naps. He moves so fast these bozos are tripping over their own feet and eating the floorboards before they even know what hit them. He reaches for his glowing sword but catches himself. Drawing the Winterer here means he would have to actually end these guys permanently. Deciding to keep it casual, he opts for the classic tavern brawl route instead. He grabs a wooden chair and absolutely shatters it over the next guy's skull, leaving the rest of the peanut gallery completely stunned. The blonde guy is holding his own against the tavern thugs, but a sudden scream breaks his focus. He turns around to see the kid has been snatched up by the mob. Left with zero options, he drops his weapon and surrenders, forced to his knees while absolutely seething. The smug ringleader struts over with that disgusting bowl of wriggling maggots. He grabs the kid by the jaw, fully intending to force-feed him the nasty local delicacy. The blonde guy completely loses it, screaming at the thugs to back off. The leader just mocks their tight brotherly bond. Desperate, the older guy offers to eat the bugs himself to spare the kid, and the ringleader happily accepts the trade. The creepy server taunts him with the spoonful of wriggling grubs. He tells the blonde guy to take a bite if he really wants to save his little brother. Our guy doesn't even flinch. He locks eyes with the bully, opens wide, and chomps down on the nasty bugs without a single ounce of hesitation. The whole tavern goes dead silent. The thugs are absolutely disgusted. Little Boris watches in pure horror as his brother actually chews the forbidden protein. The thugs start backing away in pure terror. They realize they just messed with an absolute psycho. The server is sweating bullets now. The older brother wipes his mouth, his eyes burning with rage, and steps up to challenge the terrified bully to a real fight. The tavern is buzzing after that little stunt. The blonde guy is absolutely done playing nice. He looks this thug dead in the eye and casually drops that he is about to end his whole career. But being the gentleman he is, he offers a tiny window for redemption. The thug leader, clearly missing the memo that he is outmatched, demands our guy admit defeat and kiss the floor. Big mistake. The blonde guy just reaches for his blade. The little bro is watching this unfold and he is stressed. He has seen his big brother swing a sword before, but the guy standing there right now looks like a straight-up demon. The thug tries to cope, telling himself the kid will not actually catch a body over some bugs. But then the blonde guy unsheathes his sword, and the whole room lights up. The thugs are absolutely flabbergasted by the glowing ice blade. Yeah, buddy, you just picked a fight with the wrong family. The thug leader realizes he might have bitten off more than he can chew. He decides his only chance is a preemptive strike and lunges forward with a desperate yell. But our blonde protector effortlessly blocks the attack, leaving the bully absolutely stunned by his raw strength. With a swift counter, the older brother violently knocks the thug back, sending him stumbling across the dirt like a rag doll. Gripping his glowing ice sword, the blonde warrior locks in with a cold glare. He delivers a precise strike that completely disarms the thug, leaving the bully totally defenseless and sweating bullets. The younger brother watches anxiously from the sidelines as the defeated thug collapses in absolute disbelief. Raising his glowing blade high, the older brother prepares to deliver the final blow, striking pure terror into the bully's wide eyes. The thug leader immediately drops to his knees and begs for his life. The blonde brother casually sheathes his sword. The absolute clown screams out a full surrender. But the older brother is not letting him off that easy. With a cold, dead stare, he points right at the bowl of wriggling maggots and orders the guy to eat up. The little kid can only watch in pure shock as the tables completely turn. Sweating bullets, the defeated bully scoops up a spoonful of the disgusting grubs and forces them down his throat. It goes exactly as well as you would expect. The guy instantly gags and violently throws up all over the table. He knocks the bowl over and spills the nasty soup everywhere. The kid is absolutely disgusted by the whole scene. The older brother just calls his name and casually walks out of the tavern. He leaves the sick thug slumped over his own puke. Later that night in their rented room, the adrenaline finally wears off. The boy sits curled up on his bed, looking deeply troubled by what he just witnessed. He quietly calls out to his older brother to talk about the crazy shift in his personality. Later that night, back in their room, the older brother checks on our boy. The kid is sitting there completely silent, just processing the absolute menace he witnessed downstairs. The blonde guy leans in and gently asks him to spill what is on his mind. The kid finally looks up and admits he was just a little spooked. He quickly clarifies he knows his brother did not do anything wrong and had no other choice, but seeing him go full demon mode was definitely a culture shock. He grips his arm tight, still rattled by the whole maggot feeding session. The older brother gives a soft smile, knowing nobody understands him better than this kid. He sits back and admits that their strict father was actually right all along. He tells the boy that he cannot afford to let his heart soften in a world this brutal. With the glowing family sword resting nearby, the blonde guy drops a heavy truth bomb. He admits he will not be able to stand by his side and protect him forever. He tells the kid he has his own path to walk, and to survive it, he needs to toughen up. Looking dead serious, he grabs his little brother's hand and gives him the ultimate survival tip. If you cannot be a rock, then be a clam. He He tells him to close himself off completely so nobody can ever see the vulnerability he carries inside. The older brother grips our boy's hand like a vice. He tells him he needs to understand right now that the world isn't going to let them be weak. Our boy looks up and asks if he really needs to become a clam. The older brother just looks away with a shadowed face and our boy gives a slow nod. Internally, our boy knows the truth. His brother is only acting tough because he is terrified of them becoming weak. With their father and the troops gone, it is just the two of them against the world. The older brother tells him to keep his armor on just in case. He grabs his glowing sword and promises to wake him at midnight, giving him a gentle head pat before taking the first watch. Night falls over the plateau under a bright full moon. Our boy lies wide awake in bed. He glances over at his brother who is sitting on the cold floor with his back turned, clutching the family heirloom like a lifeline. Midnight rolls around, but the older brother hasn't moved an inch. Suddenly our boy flinches. A stray drop of water hits the glowing blade. He looks closer and realizes his tough older brother is silently trembling and crying his eyes out. So much for being a clam. Our boy wakes up to a stray tear and catches his tough older brother silently sobbing while clutching the family sword. He wonders if he should comfort him but decides to just lay there and cry silently himself. He remembers his brother's whole clam speech and just cannot bring himself to say a single word. The next day they hit the dusty trail. The older brother leads the horse while our boy rides. The kid silently watches his brother's cold and distant vibe. He realizes he has never seen this side of him before and it is honestly kind of terrifying. Trying to break the ice, our boy points out some purple flowers on the side of the road. His brother just bluntly drops the name cornflower and keeps marching like a robot. The kid is heartbroken, wondering if his brother forgot all the cool stories he used to tell him about flowers back when things were normal. The sun starts setting and they realize they are not making it to town tonight. They set up camp, but suddenly the horse stops dead in its tracks. A rustling sound in the dark bushes puts them right back on high alert. As the sun dips below the horizon, the older brother realizes they aren't making it to town tonight. They set up a little campfire in the middle of nowhere. The younger boy sits there, clutching his sword like a safety blanket, jumping at every rustle in the bushes. Suddenly, the older brother drops his stick and tells the kid to grab his weapon. He stands up, draws his glowing blade, and calls out into the dark, roasting whoever is creeping on them for hiding like absolute cowards. Right on cue, a bunch of crusty bandits step out of the shadows. The leader, rocking a big axe, orders his goons to surround them. The younger boy flinches as horses neigh in the distance, realizing they are totally boxed in. The older brother keeps his cool, glancing back to make sure the kid is ready. The bandits just laugh it off, acting like these two are completely clueless about how dead they are. But then the bandit leader gets a good look at that glowing blue blade. He immediately recognizes it as the legendary Winterer, the super rare family heirloom they have been hunting for. The older brother just glares back, ready to show these scrubs exactly why that sword is a big deal. Yevgen tries to do the whole honorable knight routine, dropping his full name and title. But this bandit leader could not care less about his pedigree and just orders his goons to snatch the glowing loot. Our boy is immediately swarmed by the thugs. He holds his ground, clashing blades with two of them at once before sliding back to get some breathing room. With a fierce glare, Yevgen swings back hard. He sends the grunts flying and lets them know this legendary blade is way out of their league. But while he is busy styling on the front line, another bandit sneaks up from behind. Boris spots the ambush and screams for his brother to watch his six. A heavy chain comes swinging down and wraps tightly around Yevgen and his sword. The bearded bandit leader laughs it off, telling the kid he put up a good fight, but it is officially game over. The bearded goon thinks he has secured the bag. He laughs it up, telling our boy he put up a decent fight for a kid, but it is officially game over now that he is all tied up. Yeah, about that. Yevgen just tightens his grip on that snowflake hilt. The sword pulses with a blinding blue light, and the chains instantly shatter into a million pieces. The thugs shield their eyes from the blast, absolutely losing their minds over the fact that solid iron just exploded into a cold mist. The bandit leader is actually impressed. He realizes he is getting a front row seat to the legendary power of the Winterer. Our boy stands tall, ready to show these clowns exactly how his family heirloom freezes and shatters anything in its path. The older brother flexes his icy dual blades, ready to turn these forest thugs into popsicles, but the bandit leader just drops his axe and smirks, totally unfazed by the glowing swords. He casually asks if the older brother can keep up that tough guy act with a giant hole in his little sibling's chest. Our boy freezes up, sweating bullets as he realizes he can't solo this whole squad while playing babysitter. But little bro isn't about to just stand there and be a liability. While the bandits laugh their heads off, the kid suddenly draws his own sword, ready to throw hands. The leader chuckles at the absolute audacity and decides to test the kid's luck, swinging his massive axe straight down. The boy looks up, suddenly realizing he might have bitten off way more than he can chew. His older brother screams in pure panic and dives forward to save him. The bandit tells the kid to resent his own arrogance, but before the blade can even connect, a random arrow flies out of nowhere and pierces straight through the thug's neck, painting the forest red. Just as the smug bandit is about to swing his axe down on our boy, an arrow suddenly pierces his neck out of nowhere. Blood splatters everywhere as the guy drops dead on the spot. His lackeys completely lose their minds, screaming about their captain getting sniped. The older brother immediately grabs Boris and shields him with his own body as total chaos erupts. The surviving bandits scatter like roaches, yelling about an ambush. The older brother sweats bullets, realizing that could have ended really badly, and frantically scans the trees to see who is playing Robin Hood. Heavy boots step out from the shadows right past the planted arrow. 4 mysterious cloaked figures emerge from the brush looking like an absolute fantasy RPG party. The older brother keeps Boris tucked behind his back and points his glowing sword right at them, demanding to know who they are. The brown-haired leader just flashes a cocky smile and tells him they are his saviors, asking if he could be a little more polite to the guys who just saved his life. The older brother coldly replies that if they are not expecting a reward, then thanks. The strangers just burst out laughing at his sheer audacity. As they gather around the campfire, the older brother stares them down, doing the math in his head. He realizes these 4 just wiped out a whole bandit squad in a flash. He starts sweating again, wondering if these guys are actually allies or just way stronger enemies waiting to rob them next, and his paranoia is totally justified when one of the cloaked guys starts joking about whether the 2 rich kids have any good loot on them. The older brother is still sweating bullets. He leads our boy over to the campfire where their mysterious saviors are just chilling. The crew introduces themselves. You got 2 random dudes in cloaks, a guy with a crossbow who calls himself Romovac, and a lady puffing on a pipe who gives them a warm smile. The brothers are still on high alert. Crossbow guy tells them they can bounce if they feel awkward, but the older brother decides they might as well crash here for the night. They take a seat around the crackling fire. The vibes are definitely a little tense as everyone just sits there in awkward silence. Suddenly, a juicy red apple comes flying through the air. Our boy catches it and just stares at the thing like it is an alien artifact. Pipe lady smirks and tells him to go ahead and take a bite. She promises it is not poisoned and points out he is way too young to be roughing it out here in the wild. The pipe-smoking leader takes a drag and points out that our boy is looking a little too fresh-faced for a wasteland stroll. Yevgen is sweating bullets trying to figure out their angle. The leader just casually drops that they are guns for hire who will take on any job if the bag is heavy enough. He then decides it is story time and drops some heavy lore. He talks about Ganapali, a legendary magic kingdom that used to be absolutely dripping in gold and jewels. But war came knocking and turned the whole place into a literal hellscape crawling with angry spirits and the undead. He flashes a dark smile and hits them with a grim reality check. The Mortal Lands is not exactly a vacation spot. It is the kind of place where you walk in breathing and get carried out in a body bag. Back at the campfire, the red-haired traveler is having a field day with our older brother's terrified expression. He is sweating bullets right now because casually strolling out of the cursed Mortal Lands alive is basically unheard of. It is a literal hellscape of fire and ruins. But these guys are built different. The mustache dude casually whips out a spearhead dripping with some sketchy purple liquid. He flexes that this custom poison is strong enough to straight up kill a ghost. Our boys are absolutely flabbergasted. The red-haired woman stands up and casually drops the bomb that they actually looted the ghost they killed. She pulls out a shiny golden bracelet and asks if they want to see some premium loot. She tosses the bling over to the kid. He catches it and is instantly mesmerized by the insane details. The gold is covered in these intricate carvings of people dancing. It is so shiny and well-crafted that it instantly makes him picture the legendary Golden City itself. The kid stares at the shiny gold ring, getting completely lost in the sauce. He starts having visions of a legendary Golden City with shining sand, towering pillars, and ruby roofs. It feels like the ancient magic kingdom is right in front of him. Later that night, the squad finally rolls up to a massive wooden inn. The innkeeper is pretty shocked to see guests knocking on his door at this ungodly hour. The red-haired lady just laughs it off. She casually drops that they hiked all night because sleeping next to a pile of fresh corpses was not exactly the vibe they were going for. She tosses a set of room keys to the older brother, who catches them looking a bit stunned. The rest of the crew heads upstairs, hyped to finally get some decent shut-eye after a long night of surviving the wild. Our boy is absolutely wiped. His older brother flashes a warm smile and tells him it is finally time to get some shut-eye. They walk off hand in hand, thinking they are finally safe from the chaos. But the moment he closes his eyes, he is thrown straight into a flashback dream. Little baby Boris is just chilling in the woods with his toy horse when someone calls his name. He turns around completely clueless about the trauma that is about to walk into his life. Enter the creepy guy in the green coat. He introduces himself as the kid's uncle and asks if he is playing all by himself. He flashes a wicked grin and asks if little man wants to see what real fun looks like. Our boy, being a naive toddler, takes the bait and asks how. The uncle scoops him right up into the air. For a split second, it is all giggles and good vibes. But then the dude's face drops into pure villain mode. He tells the kid he will never forget this moment and starts marching straight toward a massive stone well. The good vibes instantly evaporate. Our boy realizes his uncle is totally unhinged and starts panicking as he is dangled over the edge. The kid's dream takes a dark turn as his creepy uncle dangles him over a pitch-black well. The guy flashes a totally unhinged smile while our boy begs him to let go. Boris jolts awake with a scream, only to realize his nightmare is just getting started. His hands are bound tight behind his back. He looks up and spots his older brother tied up right next to him. The kid squirms on the floor in total confusion, asking how the hell they ended up like this. Instead of panicking, his brother just bursts out laughing at their pathetic state. He admits that despite acting tough, he is really just an ignorant kid who got played for a fool. But that playful vibe vanishes in a split second. His eyes go dead serious as he decides it is time to step up and teach his little brother the harsh lessons their father never got to. Starting with a little lesson on payback. They are going to return every ounce of pain they just received. A loud thud echoes outside a random barn. Inside, our blonde protector has just knocked a mustache thug flat on his back. The guy drops his dagger like a total amateur. The blonde guy stands over him, demanding to know exactly who locked them up. The thug whines about not wanting to be involved in this mess, but our guy isn't playing games. He casually scoops up the dropped blade, keeping his guard up and his eyes locked on the target. The thug finally cracks and screams that Janaka's gang sold them out. He explains they were pawned off to some shady mercenary corps. Basically, these guys buy people and force them to fight on the front lines until they get their money's worth. The blonde guy's eyes widen at the name, and he whips around, startling his little brother. The thug adds that the mercenaries will be coming to collect them real soon. The older brother suddenly spins around, startling the kid. He drops the bomb that they need to hurry up and get moving. He parks his little bro behind some barrels outside a building, ordering him to stay put and watch everything that is about to go down. The kid reluctantly agrees, watching his brother march off with a pit in his stomach. Our blonde protector is mentally preparing to show the kid exactly how you deal with backstabbers. He hates having to strip away the boy's innocence, but time is a luxury they just do not have right now. He slips through the doors of a bustling tavern. Inside, the locals are busy gossiping about fallen nobles, while the two specific scumbags he is looking for are knocking back drinks and wondering where the rest of their crew ran off to. Time for a little undercover work. He grabs a serving tray to blend in, but keeps a nasty-looking dagger hidden right behind his back. He casually strolls up to their table, casting a terrifying shadow over the two clueless targets who are about to have a very bad night. The two thugs are sitting around their table wondering where their boss is, since she was supposed to meet them at the village. But instead of their boss, they get a very pissed-off blonde kid with glowing blue eyes staring absolute daggers into their souls. He does not even give them a single second to process the threat. He smashes a serving tray right into the mustache guy's face and then slams a dagger straight through his hand, pinning it to the wooden table. The guy screams bloody murder as his hand gets turned into a shish kebab. His bearded buddy jumps up in a total panic and draws his weapon, but our boy is completely unfazed by the sudden movement. He just casually slides the sword right out of the screaming guy's scabbard and asks a very simple question. He wants to know exactly where a stolen sword is. The bearded thug tries to take a wild swing at him, but the blonde kid easily dodges the clumsy attack. He parries the next strike with zero effort and repeats his question with a deadly glare. The thug stammers back that it is none of his business, but he is clearly sweating bullets. The bearded thug takes a wild swing, but our boy easily parries and points the blade right back at his face. He coldly roasts the guy for being a shameless petty thief. He holds the steel right to the dude's throat, making him sweat absolute bullets. Meanwhile, his buddy Joaquin is still pinned to the table, screaming his lungs out from the dagger our boy casually shoved through his hand. Realizing he's outmatched, the cornered thug calls Joaquin a traitor, takes a desperate swing to create some space, and bolts out the door. He screams that the black gloves are going to come for their heads, but honestly, he's just running for his life. With his backup gone, Joaquin is left staring down our boy's blade. Sweating buckets, he realizes they've been completely played by Janaka. He figures she probably planned to keep the sword for herself all along, explaining that the crossbow guy must have insisted on selling it and splitting the cash. The cornered thief immediately spills the tea. He tells our blonde protector that Janaka's mercenary crew will be chilling at the north entrance around midnight. He warns him that if they spot him, they will gladly hand him over to the big bad mercs. Sweating bullets, he adds a little extra advice and calls Janaka Goth a seriously dangerous woman. Having got what he needed, the older brother yanks his dagger right out of the guy's hand. The thief groans in absolute agony, but our boy does not care one bit. He just stares down with absolute ice in his veins. He knows he has to get his family sword back no matter what. The older brother leads our boy down a quiet dirt path under the moonlight. The mood is incredibly heavy. Yevgen looks completely drained while Boris sweats bullets right behind him. The older brother stops in his tracks and admits that the taste of blood is bitter. He stares down at his blood-soaked hand gripping the dagger. He tells his little bro that taking a life is something even he is capable of doing now. He drops the blade right into the dirt to drive the dark point home. Boris is absolutely devastated. He knows his brother is not a cold-blooded killer. He flashes back to Yevgen, pinning that tavern thug to the table, and realizes the awful truth. His big bro is only getting his hands dirty to keep him safe. Yevgen turns back around and drops some harsh reality. He explains that when you have someone to protect you will cross any line. He tells the kid to value his own life above absolutely everything else. Just like Yevgen is willing to do whatever it takes for him, Boris needs to be ready to do the exact same for himself. He orders him to protect his own life more than any legendary sword or family treasure. The older brother lays down the ultimate harsh truth. He tells the kid that he needs to value his own life above absolutely everything else. He runs through a grim montage of war, betrayal, and literal monsters, hammering home that the kid has to do whatever it takes so he does not die, get abandoned, or get hurt. Standing in front of a massive skeletal nightmare, the older brother places a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. The kid looks up with tears in his eyes as his brother gives him his final order. He tells him to survive this painful world until the bitter end. Meanwhile, down in the village streets, two cloaked figures are having a little midnight rendezvous. They are complaining that they cannot find the legendary sword anywhere. But, plot twist, our boys are already staking them out from a nearby rooftop like a couple of medieval Batmen. The young boy peeks over the ledge and points down at a new problem rolling into town. A whole squad of heavily armed goons is marching right toward the cloaked duo. The older brother locks in, his eyes narrowing as he recognizes the incoming threat. It turns out this is the infamous Lacortable Mercenary Corps, a ruthless gang of battle-hardened warriors you really do not want to mess with. Their bald, heavily scarred commander steps up to the plate, glaring down the cloaked figures and asking if they are the ones who called for a meeting. Down in the streets, the two cloaked traitors finally meet up with the Lacortable Mercenary Corps. The smug brunette tries to play it cool and claims it is not her fault they showed up late. But the bald commander with a star carved into his skull is not having it. His men draw their steel and demand double compensation or forced conscription. The two scammers are absolutely stunned. The brunette starts popping off about being underestimated, but her mustached buddy quickly steps in to do some damage control. He nervously laughs off the tension and tosses a fat pouch of coins onto the dirt as a refund. The commander steps right over the cash. He flat out tells them they are either working off their debt or dying right here on the pavement. The duo starts sweating bullets and frantically whispering to each other to figure a way out of this mess. Realizing they are completely cornered, the brunette slaps on a fake smile and tries to negotiate. She asks if this forced labor gig is a lifetime contract. The commander agrees to let them walk free if they can pull off just one mission. He explains that a shady physician from Travashis needs replacements for two guys who just died in a totally unsuspicious accident. Feeling confident, the woman pulls back her hood to reveal her shiny new toy. Yep, she is just casually rocking the stolen family heirloom right on her back. Our boy on the roof spots his stolen sword and is absolutely shook. The thief smugly accepts the gig, telling the bald guy not to back out now. But Yevgen decides he has heard enough and yells down from the roof, catching the attention of the whole crew. The thief is genuinely surprised these kids did not just run away. But running is not on the menu today. Yevgen drops down right in front of them with his sword drawn, looking ready to catch a body. He locks eyes with the thief, finally putting a face to the name Janaka Goth. Our boy drops in from the top rope and demands his stolen sword back from the scar-faced thief. She and her cloaked buddy just stare up at him like he is a minor inconvenience while our guy glares daggers right back at them. The thief just bursts out laughing at his threat. Meanwhile, the bald mercenary commander is completely over this drama and asks if they can finally just wrap this up and leave. But our guy is not letting them walk away. He draws a standard blade and points it right at her chest, demanding to know why they are trying to sell people in a country that literally outlawed slavery. The thief just smirks and tells him to pipe down. She roasts him for getting caught so easily and says a talentless rookie has zero right to be lecturing anyone right now. This just pisses our boy off even more. That is when the younger brother steps up and starts screaming at them. He points out that they only managed to capture them by sneaking up on them while they were dead asleep. He asks if they seriously consider that raw talent. We get a quick flashback to how these scammers played them like a fiddle. They acted like friendly travelers sharing a campfire, tossing the kid an apple, and showing off shiny rings to lower their guard. The kid glares at them and calls them out for being absolute cowards. Our boy isn't having it. He screams that they exploited their trust and calls them out for being nothing but cheap scammers. The thieves are absolutely fuming at the disrespect from a literal child. But before things can escalate, the bald commander steps in. The scammers try to nervously dip out and ask for a refund, but the big guy isn't letting anyone walk away that easily. He lays down the law. They have to fight it out right here and now. The winner gets to walk free, but the loser gets dragged away and sold into forced labor. The older brother steps up to the plate and demands the red-haired thief draw her weapon. She reaches for the glowing blue family heirloom strapped to her back but quickly reconsiders. She knows if she flashes that kind of premium loot, the commander will definitely confiscate it, so she settles for her standard blade instead. But even with a basic sword, she is no joke. She lunges forward with terrifying speed and instantly closes the gap. Before our boy can even blink, her blade is right at his throat, leaving him completely stunned by her insane agility. The scar-faced leader mocks our boy for talking a big game while fighting like a total rookie. She unleashes a rapid flurry of slashes that completely overwhelms him. He gets pushed back and takes a nasty slice to the cheek and neck. The younger brother watches the fight in absolute panic. He knows they need to get their magic sword back, but at this rate, his brother is going to get sliced to ribbons. Suddenly, a rustling sound in the bushes distracts him. He turns toward the dark trees, wondering who is lurking in the shadows. Before he can even react, a voice whispers right behind him. The kid's eyes widen in pure shock as he realizes he just got flanked. Meanwhile, back in the duel, the mercenary lands a massive slash right across the older brother's chest. Blood sprays through the air as he takes the critical hit. Seeing his brother get struck down, the kid screams out his name in absolute terror. But just when it looks like he is down for the count, his eyes snap open with a crazy blue glow. He drops his basic sword and lunges forward, wrapping the red-haired thief in a sudden bear hug that leaves her completely baffled. He is not trying to cuddle, though. He reaches right over her shoulder and wraps his hand around the hilt of his stolen family heirloom. He rips the glowing blue blade free and unleashes a massive shockwave of pure freezing energy. The thief screams as the sword's raw power instantly flash freezes her solid. The surrounding mercenaries and his little brother can only watch in absolute horror as their boss is turned into a giant glowing ice cube in a matter of seconds. Our boy stands there panting with his legendary weapon finally back in his hands. He gives them a dead-eyed stare and coldly announces that playtime is officially over. The ice magic hits like a truck, instantly turning the mercenary leader into a giant human popsicle. Our boy stands victorious, holding his glowing family heirloom like an absolute boss. He didn't even break a sweat putting this scammer on ice. The bald commander respects the hustle and agrees to let them walk. The little bro immediately sprints over and tackles his older brother in a massive hug, completely relieved that they actually survived this mess. But one of the mercenary goons is absolutely losing his mind over his boss getting frozen. Refusing to take the L, he pulls out a crossbow and aims it right at the brothers while their guard is down. Talk about a sore loser. Before he can even pull the trigger, a barrage of throwing knives pins his arm to his side. The guy screams in agony and drops his weapon, completely blowing his sneak attack. The brothers turn around just in time to see the bald commander stepping up to deal with this embarrassing display of friendly fire. The bald commander is not about to let a cheap shot slide. He barks out a name and a tiny assassin drops straight out of the canopy. Meet Naya. She sticks the superhero landing without making a single sound. Armed with throwing knives and rocking some serious main character energy, she is ready to work. Before the salty crossbow guy can even process his life choices, she closes the distance in a literal blur. He completely panics. Naya goes airborne, deflects his desperate block, and kicks him straight into next week. She pins him to the dirt and stomps his weapon into pieces just for the extra disrespect. One deadpan glare and a blade to the jugular is all it takes to make this dude start sweating bullets. Our boys just watch from the sidelines as the mercenary boss spits on his treacherous lackey. He tells his crew to take out the trash, wrapping up this little side quest for good. Our boy's older brother isn't letting this slide. He looks the captured thug dead in the eye and asks how he could spew such absolute garbage in front of his own mother. He calls the guy worse than a maggot, leaving the thug completely speechless. Suddenly, the white-haired assassin girl calls out, catching our boy's attention. He realizes she was the one watching him from the trees earlier. Her boss tells her she did a good job and calls her Naya as they walk off into the night, leaving the frozen gang leader behind like a giant popsicle. Our boy reflects on how those swindlers never even asked why they were on the run. Floating in a dark void of his own thoughts, he stresses about their stolen money and lost horses. But hey, at least his brother is safe and they got their legendary sword back. But his relief is cut short when a shadowy figure suddenly grabs him from behind. The attacker chokes him out and violently flips him upside down. Our boy struggles to breathe, gasping in absolute terror as the nightmare takes hold. Our boy cries out for his brother as a shadowy figure with glowing purple eyes suddenly looms over him. Before he can even process the threat, the shadow grabs him by the collar and violently hurls him backward into the dark. His eyes snap wide open as he jolts awake in the middle of the forest. He clutches his throat, gasping for air and sweating bullets, finally realizing that the terrifying ambush was just a seriously messed up nightmare. But his relief is cut short when he spots his older brother sprawled out on the dirt nearby. He completely panics, thinking they actually got jumped in their sleep, and scrambles over to check on him. Turns out the guy is just completely knocked out and rolled off his bedroll. Total false alarm. Breathing a massive sigh of relief, the kid grabs their heavy cloak and pulls it over his exhausted brother. He snuggles up right beside him to stay warm, wishing him a good night before finally getting some actual rest. But suddenly, his older brother's eyes snap wide open. He jolts upright, gasping for air and clutching his chest like his heart is about to explode out of his ribcage. The brothers hit up a local town and step into a pawn shop looking to offload some goods. The older brother slaps a wrapped bundle on the counter and reveals a fancy mirror decorated with blue gems. He asks how much he can get for it, and the shopkeeper whips out his magnifying glass to inspect the piece, noting the initials YJ engraved inside. The older brother waits for the appraisal while the kid watches silently. The shopkeeper scoffs and hits them with a massive lowball, offering a measly 200 elso, claiming the piece is totally out of style and they are crazy if they expect full price. The kid tugs at his brother, suggesting they just bounce since the mirror is precious to them. But the older brother's eyes gleam with cold determination, and he haggles the guy up to 300 elso, sealing the deal while the kid watches in dismay. Back at the inn, the older brother is trying to play it cool, offering up a massive feast like they just hit the lottery. But our boy is not having it. He is staring at the food like it is poison, knowing full well this entire spread was paid for by pawning off their mom's precious keepsake for absolute pennies. He is sitting there thinking he would have been perfectly fine surviving on stale bread and tap water instead of watching his brother pretend everything is fine. He finally breaks the silence and asks the million-dollar question. When is their dad actually going to contact them? The older brother instantly freezes up, a single drop of sweat betraying that forced customer service smile. He quickly recovers, spinning a tale about how their old man is probably just laying low to heal his wounds, and they need to eat up so they are ready to reunite with him at a moment's notice. It sounds good on paper, but his body language is screaming a completely different story. His hands are trembling so hard the silverware is practically doing a tap dance on the plate. Our boy catches the lie immediately, looking up at his brother's shaking back and asking the real question. If he is so sure they are going to see their dad again, why does he look so terrified? Our boy calls him out on his trembling hands, asking why he looks so depressed if he actually believes their dad is going to make it out alive. Later that night, the kid is trapped in that same recurring nightmare, some shadowy figure pinning him down and choking the absolute life out of him. He starts to wake up, wondering why his brain keeps torturing him with this specific dream. But as his eyes snap open, the nightmare doesn't end. It is real, and the guy strangling him is his own big brother. The older sibling looks completely possessed, sweating bullets with dead eyes as he hoists the kid completely off the mattress by his windpipe. Gasping for air, our boy desperately kicks his brother away to break the death grip, crashing hard onto the floor. Our boy hits the floor in tears and looks up at his older brother. But Big Bro is not looking so friendly right now. He just stands there like a menacing sleep paralysis demon right next to their glowing family heirloom. The kid completely loses it. He screams and grabs onto his brother's shirt, begging for his life. He cries out that he is terrified and asks why he is acting like a total psycho. Big Bro just stares down at him with these glowing red eyes and tells him to wake up. Suddenly our boy jolts up in bed, gasping for air. It was all just a crazy Inception-level nightmare. His brother is standing right there looking completely normal and asks if he just had a bad dream. Our boy snaps awake in a cold sweat. He is panting like he just ran a marathon in his sleep. His older brother checks in on him and asks if he had a bad dream. But when our guy looks over, he gets a terrifying flash of those glowing red eyes from his nightmare. He clutches his stomach in pain and flashes back to the dream where his own brother was trying to slice him up. He looks down, half expecting to see a gaping wound. But his brother just gives him a warm smile and explains he actually just rolled right out of bed. He suggests they hit the road since they rested up. This leaves our boy looking super anxious and deep in thought about what really happened last night. The boys hit the road again under a bright sky. The kid quietly trails behind his older brother. He is still totally spooked by last night. He knows it was not just a bad dream. His brother actually tried to choke him out with some crazy fever strength. The older brother is looking rough. He stumbles on the dirt path like he is running on fumes. The kid calls out to ask if he is okay. The kid is certain now his brother is seriously ill. He wonders if they will even make it to their aunt's estate before the guy completely collapses. Fidgeting nervously with his shirt, the kid drops a heavy question. He asks if their dad is actually coming back. The older brother stops dead in his tracks and shoots him a strained, sweaty look. The journey is taking its toll. Yevgen suddenly stumbles on the path looking like he is about to completely pass out. Boris grabs his arm in a panic, but his older brother just slumps onto a rock, completely exhausted and sweating bullets. Seeing his invincible Big Bro looking so weak triggers something in Boris. He starts flashing back to that chaotic night, the giant ice snake tearing apart their mansion, that terrifying lake monster. He remembers running for his life in the pitch black, but his memories of what actually went down are totally fragmented. Then Yevgen finally breaks the silence and drops the bomb. He confirms Boris's worst fears, admitting that their dad is not coming back. The repressed memories come flooding back. The burning battlefield, their treacherous uncle Vlado and his pet mage standing over the carnage. Yevgen had tried to cope back then by claiming their dad was safe with the butler, but the grim reality of their situation is finally hitting our boy right in the face. Out of nowhere, this massive skeletal nightmare with glowing red eyes slams down onto the dirt. Big Bro immediately steps up with his dual glowing swords ready to slice and dice. But our boy is completely frozen in place. He locks eyes with the beast and just starts hyperventilating. He fumbles his sword and trips backward as the monster lunges right at him. He squeezes his eyes shut, just waiting for the game over screen. But Big Bro isn't about to let his little brother become a Scooby snack. He reaches out, grabs the kid by the collar, and yanks him right out of the danger zone. His older brother desperately screams for him to run away as a massive winged beast looms right behind him under the blood-red moon. But our boy is completely frozen in panic as the skeletal nightmare winds up for a devastating attack. A massive explosion rocks the area and fresh blood splatters right across his horrified face. A massive skeletal winged nightmare drops from the sky with a heavy thud. Our boy is absolutely paralyzed with fear alongside his older brother. He instantly recognizes this ugly mug. It is the wraith of Lake Amera his nanny used to warn him about back in the day. He stares into its giant bloodshot eyes. They do not look dead or alive, they just look like massive fireballs glaring at the world ready to ruin his whole week. And what does our brave protagonist do? He completely folds. He turns tail and sprints away into the dark forest like a total coward. He squeezes his eyes shut as the guilt immediately starts eating him alive. He leaves his older brother behind to face the monster alone. The wraith strikes with its massive wing and a blinding flash of light erupts behind him. Cut to the present. The two brothers are sitting in dead silence around a crackling campfire. The mood is incredibly heavy. The older brother looks completely drained while our boy just stares at the ground in absolute shame. The older brother drops an absolute nuke on the campfire vibes. He tells our boy it is time they split up. The kid is completely paralyzed by the news. His eyes practically pop out of his skull. He immediately bows his head and starts sobbing. He begs to stay by his brother's side until the bitter end, but the older sibling just hits him with that tragic, resigned smile. He knows the dark corruption from the lake monster is already spreading through his veins. The kid flashes back to their sweet Aunt Yenny. She took a trip to that exact same lake and came back as a literal shrieking ghoul. The memory of her monstrous screams is burned into his brain. He knows exactly what kind of horrific fate is waiting for his brother. Back in the present, the older brother holds out their massive glowing family heirloom. He tells the kid to grab the hilt and take a practice swing. Our boy just stares up at the giant blade, sweating bullets. Back in the memory, the kid is struggling to even lift the glowing family heirloom. It is way too heavy for his noodle arms. His older brother steps in to help him support the weight. The older brother sighs, wishing the kid was just a little bit older so he could actually survive on his own. Because right now the clock is ticking on his own life, and the kid just cannot level up fast enough to handle what is coming. He steps back, putting some distance between them. A dark shadow falls over the older brother's face. The kid instantly feels that heavy, gut-wrenching dread. He grips the sword tight, realizing his brother is about to ditch him for good. He begs him not to go. The kid completely breaks down. He drops the tough guy act and sprints forward with tears streaming down his face. He screams that he would rather his brother just kill him right here and now. He throws his arms around him, sobbing that he just wants to stay by his side, even if it means they both go down together. The older brother grits his teeth. He is absolutely not having this pity party. He winds up and delivers a crisp reality check right across our boy's face. The kid is completely stunned. Tears instantly well up as he clutches his stinging cheek. The blonde warrior grabs him by the shoulders and screams at him to repeat the lesson he taught him. The kid wipes his snot and stammers through his tears. He chokes out the exact words his brother drilled into his head. The older brother pulls him into a tight hug. He lays down the ultimate survival guide. Once he is gone, the kid has to become his own shield. He tells him to never trust anyone and never let his guard down. It is going to be a miserable grind, but it is the only way to stay breathing. He flashes a soft smile and promises the kid that if he follows these rules, he will survive long enough to see all the infinite possibilities his life has to offer. Our boy just looks up at him with absolute heartbreak. Then the blonde warrior reaches down and grabs the hilt of their glowing family heirloom. He shoves the massive blade into his little brother's trembling hands. He drops the heaviest bomb yet. If the corruption takes over and he goes crazy again, the kid has to use this very sword to put him down. The older brother smiles through the pain and hands over the glowing family heirloom. He drops the heaviest ultimatum a kid could ever hear. If the corruption takes over and he goes full psycho mode again, our boy has full permission to run him through with the icy blade. Talk about a traumatic childhood milestone. The older brother is straight up losing his mind. He's blacking out and waking up with zero memory of what he's done. He's terrified he's turning into a shrieking monster just like his late aunt, or worse, that he's been terrorizing his little brother during his episodes. Time is completely slipping through his fingers. One blink and it's afternoon, another and it's midnight. The corruption is eating away at his sanity, and he can feel himself slowly morphing into something entirely different. His absolute worst nightmare isn't dying. It's the gut-wrenching fear that he'll completely lose control, hurt his brother, and wake up to find the kid's lifeless body at his feet. The sun finally rises and our boy is out gathering firewood like a responsible little survivor. He heads back to camp and finds his older brother passed out hard against a tree. The guy finally snaps awake, looking like he just went 10 rounds with a ghost. He's completely disoriented, sweating bullets, and drops a bombshell on the kid. He's been out cold for 3 whole days. Knowing his time is running out, the older brother reaches into his gear and pulls out the family's legendary armor, getting ready to pass the torch. As the sun sets, the older brother hands over his snow guard armor, telling the kid he won't be needing it anymore. Our boy is hesitant, but he reluctantly takes the heavy gear. Sweating and looking like he is on his last legs, the blonde guy drops some heavy wisdom. He tells his little bro to never seek revenge. He reflects on how their family tore each other apart over petty grudges, and reveals that it was the crimson-eyed wraith that actually took their old man out. He begs the kid to just forget the past and forgive them so he doesn't get sucked into the same toxic cycle. Later that night, the kid is out cold, wrapped up safe in the armor, but his brother is fighting a losing battle against exhaustion. He desperately tries to stay awake, terrified of what the corruption might make him do to his little bro if he actually passes out. He starts hallucinating a welcoming couple in a bright field, calling him home. But in reality, he has just collapsed in the grass. The kid gently covers his eyes, whispering for him to just let go and finally get some sleep. Boris gently closes his brother's eyes, whispering that it is okay to just let go and sleep. He walks off into the dark, tucking Yevgen under a blanket so the guy can finally catch a break. But a rogue leaf drops right on Yevgen's face, snapping him awake. He opens his eyes to an absolute light show of a meteor shower streaking across the sky and pulls himself up. Staring up at the cosmic display, Yevgen has a sudden moment of clarity. He finally knows exactly what he has to do for his little bro. He vows to protect Boris so he can sleep comfortably without a care in the world, and true to his word, our boy gets a solid night of rest, waking up fresh in the morning light. But that peace does not last long. He looks out over the field and spots a freshly dug patch of earth, his heart dropping into his stomach. Clutching the snowflake emblem on his new armor, a comforting voice echoes in his mind, telling him to forget this harsh world and hold back his tears. Our boy wakes up to a brutal reality check. He finds his brother lying dead in a makeshift grave he dug himself. It is a heartbreaking goodbye as he promises to stay by his side, hoping the long night passes quickly in a happy dream. Under a sky full of shooting stars, the older brother takes a moment to just soak it all in. He flashes a sad, peaceful smile as he kneels on the grassy hill, knowing exactly what he has to do. He looks back at his little bro, who is completely out cold by the campfire. He leaves his own regular sword behind on the dirt, preparing for what comes next. Being the ultimate older brother right to the very end, he tosses another stick on the fire to keep the kid warm and gently pulls the blanket up over his shoulder. The kid briefly cracks an eye open, catching a blurry glimpse of his brother walking away, but he is way too exhausted to stay awake and drifts right back to sleep. The older brother steps up to the glowing family heirloom sword, which is just chilling in a small crater. He stares down at the massive blade under the meteor shower, looking like a guy who has finally made his peace with the end. Under the meteor shower, Yevgen's face falls as he realizes his time is officially up. A sudden sickening squelch echoes through the quiet night, sending a flock of birds scattering into the sky. When morning rolls around, our boy wakes up to an absolute nightmare. He tracks down his older brother only to find him lying lifeless in a shallow dirt pit right next to their family's legendary sword. The sheer shock hits him like a freight train, and he drops straight to his knees in total devastation. Staring at Yevgen's blood-soaked hand, the grim reality sets in. His brother literally dug his own grave, threw himself onto the blade, and then pulled it out with his last ounce of strength just to spare him the trauma of doing it himself. Our boy breaks down, sobbing over why Yevgen couldn't leave even one last thing for him to handle. He kneels beside the only family he had left, gently burying him in the dirt. Wiping away his tears, he swallows his grief and bids his brother a final good night. Our boy bids his brother a final good night. He straps on the Snowguard armor, grabs the legendary glowing sword Winterer, and sets off alone. He has a heavy heart but a determined look. Meanwhile, in a nearby town, this blonde noble brat is throwing an absolute tantrum. She is screaming at her poor maid because she refuses to wear commoner clothes. The maid tries to explain they are in the boonies and clothes need to be custom made, but the brat just tells her to go find a dress elsewhere. The maid is left standing in the street with her luggage, crying about how her lady always takes her anger out on her. It is not her fault their luggage fell off the carriage into the mud. She looks around the rustic town, realizing there are 0 boutiques around here, and figures she better hunt down a seamstress before she gets yelled at again. Just then, she spots our boy walking into town. He is drawing a ton of attention, mostly because he is a kid lugging around a massive, glowing, super expensive looking sword. The locals are whispering and staring, wondering what a kid is doing with a weapon like that. A local girl spots our boy lugging around his massive glowing sword. She notes he looks dead on his feet and is heading straight for a sketchy tavern. Trying to play the good Samaritan, she warns him that a kid shouldn't be wandering into a thug hangout. But our boy just hits her with a dead-eyed "I'm fine" and walks right in, leaving her totally spooked by his 1,000-yard stare. Inside, he is greeted by a super chipper tavern worker. He asks for a room, and she offers him a cheap, tiny one that will perfectly fit his fun-size frame. He asks the lady if there is any spot around here willing to hire a kid like him. He doesn't even want a paycheck, just some grub and a roof over his head. Our boy is fully locked into survival mode, remembering his brother's final wish for him to endure the cold winter. Our boy is straight to the point. He tells the innkeeper's daughter he doesn't want cash, just a roof and some grub. She is a bit taken aback, wondering what kind of tragic backstory this kid is hiding. She suggests he could run errands or play servant for the local rich folks. Right on cue, a burly guy raises his hand and demands another beer. The girl, Tanya, tells Boris that this guy, Poonin the blacksmith, is actually looking for some extra hand. Boris looks over at the intimidating dude. Poonin sizes our boy up, clearly skeptical that this scrawny kid can handle the heat of a forge. Boris straight up admits he has 0 clue what the job even is. Poonen squints at him, realizing this kid isn't your average street urchin. He notes that Boris looks like he's seen some serious action, picking up a weapon for a few strifes. The blacksmith imagines a grim battlefield of clashing soldiers, realizing that if this kid survived a noble family bloodbath, it makes total sense why he looks so dead inside. He slams his mug down and tells our boy to show up at his smithy bright and early tomorrow. He warns him that if he slacks off, he is getting tossed out on the street. The kid just gives a silent little bow to seal the deal. As the sun sets over the rustic town, the freckled waitress slides a hot bowl of special soup in front of him. She tells him to eat up before it gets cold, but when he just stares at it like a statue, she gently calls him out for not having any manners. Startled, our boy finally manages to squeeze out a quiet thank you. She gives him a warm smile and leaves him to his meal, which he absolutely demolishes until the bowl is spotless. Back in his room, our boy stares at the ceiling and processes his new gig. He knows swinging a hammer all day is going to absolutely wreck his noodle arms, but physical labor is not what is keeping him up at night. The real issue is trust. He flashes back to the sketchy blacksmith and the innkeeper. After all, the last group of friendly strangers who offered him a warm campfire turned out to be literal human traffickers who sold him out to mercenaries the second things got tough. He sits up with a start. His trauma has taught him that the wider the smile, the sharper the knife. Deciding he needs to go vet this blacksmith himself to see if the guy is actually legit, our boy straps on his armor and heads out into the streets. But his little scouting mission is immediately interrupted by a massive horse galloping through the crowded market. While the locals scatter like bowling pins to avoid getting trampled by the reckless riders, our boy just casually strolls right into the danger zone. The arrogant rider screams at him to move or die, but our boy just stands there completely zoned out as 1,000 pounds of angry muscle rears up right behind his head. Our boy is just trying to take a midnight stroll when he suddenly gets jump-scared by a literal horse. The beast kicks him straight to the pavement while the local NPCs just stand there gasping. The arrogant rider glares down at him and demands an apology. He calls him a mannerless beggar. Bro, you literally just ran him over in a pedestrian zone. The crowd nervously backs away as our boy slowly sits up. He actually apologizes for being in the way, but immediately hits them with the facts. He points out that maybe they should not be galloping through a crowded street like it is the Indy 500. These rich snobs just smirk at his logic. The main thug flashes a sadistic grin and raises his whip, deciding it is time to teach this kid a lesson. He brings the whip down hard and brutally lashes our boy across the face. Blood splatters everywhere as the thug screams that this is exactly what happens when street rats mess with his crew. The thug yanks our boy up by his hair like a rag doll. The kid stares at his glowing blue sword, wishing he was swole enough to actually swing the damn thing, or that his big bro Yevgen was here to bail him out. But he quickly shakes off those useless thoughts. The thug demands he start begging for his life, but our boy remembers that Yevgen literally sacrificed his life for him to be here. He uses the heavy sword as a crutch to push himself back up, glaring daggers at his attackers and vowing not to lose to some random street hooligans. Meanwhile, a blonde noble brat named Rosinus is throwing an absolute fit because her maid could not find a single decent dressmaker in this backwater town. The poor maid is sweating bullets, recalling that the only interesting thing she saw all day was some gloomy little boy having a rough time. But before the tantrum can escalate, a knock at the door saves the day. In walks her dad, Count Ganymede, playing the hero with a brand new custom green dress. He tells his precious daughter to suit up because they are hitting the town tonight to soak in some local culture and build character. Soon enough, the Count and his daughter are parading through the nighttime streets on a white horse, flanked by a full squad of guards. Rose is still whining about the lack of local fashion, wondering if the nobles here just wear potato sacks. But their little sightseeing tour is suddenly cut short. The Count catches wind of a commotion up ahead. Being the responsible dad he is, he quickly hands Rose off to his attendant and spurs his horse forward to check out the drama. Just as things are looking grim for our boy, a booming voice echoes through the street telling the thugs to knock it off. A fancy-looking dude on a white horse rolls up with his squad to interrupt the beatdown. Meanwhile, Boris is still on the ground, clutching his glowing sword for dear life. The local bystanders are absolutely shook that someone actually has the guts to step in. The mustached man demands to know what the hell they think they are doing bullying a kid in the street. The thugs completely miss the memo that they are dealing with a high-level VIP and just mock him for being a loudmouth while Boris struggles to stay conscious. The fancy dude is not playing around. He draws his blade and warns them they are about to seriously regret their life choices. But the arrogant thug leader just smirks. He calls him a wannabe knight of justice and charges forward on his horse ready to throw down. Big mistake, buddy. The mustached man locks in and spurs his white steed forward. In one smooth lightning-fast motion, he intercepts the charge and completely disarms the thug. He sends his sword flying into the dirt and leaves the guy sweating absolute bullets. The mustached noble does not even break a sweat as he disarms the arrogant rider and points his blade right at the guy's throat. The thug realizes he is completely outmatched and curses under his breath before ordering his goons to retreat. With the trash taken out, the noble orders his men to find a doctor for the injured kid they just saved. A local woman quickly points them toward the nearest clinic. Just then, the noble's blonde daughter rides up calling for her dad. He scoops her up and drops a quick life lesson, telling her that a true noble never turns a blind eye to injustice. He wants her to remember this moment, but the spoiled girl just stares at the unconscious, dirt-covered boy clutching his glowing sword and immediately cringes at how filthy he is. Sometime later, our boy slowly blinks awake in a super fancy room with flowery wallpaper. He is completely disoriented for a second, feeling the soft sheets beneath his hands before sheer panic sets in. He violently shoots up in bed and screams for his missing sword. An older maid sitting nearby is totally unfazed by his freakout. She casually asks about the weapon and tells him to sit still so she can finally wipe the grime off his face. Our boy tells the older maid that he technically has a house but can't go back to it, making him basically homeless. She just laughs it off, assuming he is just some edgy runaway kid who doesn't appreciate a warm bed. When he points out that there aren't any counts in this country, she clarifies that his savior is actually Count Belnor from Anomarad. A younger maid pops in with some fresh clothes and leans right into his personal space. She tells him he ought to buy a lottery ticket because he is incredibly lucky her master just happened to be passing by when he was getting jumped. She hands over the fresh threads with a bright smile. She then drops the bomb that the Count wants to have dinner with him. Our boy walks into the fancy dining room still clutching his glowing blue sword like a safety blanket, all bandaged up and looking completely out of place. The mustached Count gives him a warm welcome, and it finally clicks for our boy that this is the absolute unit who saved his life. The next morning, our boy wakes up to a breakfast spread that costs more than his entire hometown. A servant slides a massive omelet in front of him while the mustache guy and his blonde daughter hype up the local truffles. It is a total culture shock for a kid who was eating literal maggots like 2 days ago. Boris digs in and realizes it has been way too long since he had a meal that did not involve fighting for his life in a dirty tavern. He quietly chews his food while the mustache guy watches him like a proud dad and says he is glad the kid is enjoying the grub. With breakfast out of the way, the man decides it is time for some formal introductions. He hits Boris with the full noble title drop. He is Count Ganymede da Belnor from the Anomarad region, and the smug little blonde sitting next to him is his only daughter and heir Rosinus. Now the pressure is on our boy to drop his own lore. Boris starts sweating a little bit because he knows he has to introduce himself, but he figures since this guy is a foreigner he probably will not recognize the Jinman family name anyway. He hesitates for a second while the Count just stares him down waiting for the tea. The suit guy connects the dots and asks if our boy is from the famous Jinman family. The blonde girl is just here for the food and has no idea what they are talking about. Boris admits his uncle basically staged a hostile takeover, so going home is a massive no-go. The Count takes a sip of his fancy drink and asks what a homeless noble kid plans to do next. Boris drops the saddest career pivot of the century and says he is going to try his luck as a blacksmith assistant. The Count is honestly baffled that a kid with this much noble drip is going to swing a hammer for a living. Boris just shrugs it off and says he will simply have to gaslight himself into liking the manual labor. But the Count is not about to let prime talent go to waste. He pours himself another glass and casually proposes that Boris ditch this dump and travel back to Anomarad with them. Our boy is completely caught off guard by the sudden invite. The blonde girl immediately loses her mind and slams the table in protest. She is absolutely not down to share her luxury carriage with a random stray. The Count warns him that the offer comes with some heavy strings attached. But Boris has been betrayed way too many times to just blindly trust a rich guy handing out free favors. He stares the Count dead in the eye and demands to know the exact catch before he agrees to anything. The Count drops the nice guy act and bluntly admits he just wants to use our boy. Boris isn't even surprised. He knew a random rich dude wouldn't just save him out of the goodness of his heart. The mustache man explains that while he already has a perfectly fine daughter and doesn't actually want any more kids, he desperately needs a son right now. He starts dropping some heavy lore from way before his little girl was even born. Turns out he made a stupid bet with an old buddy back in the day. They agreed their future kids would duel at age 10. The Count completely forgot about it after having a daughter, but his buddy definitely did not. Since the guy's oldest son is a total deadbeat, he forced his youngest kid through a brutal training arc just to become a cracked swordsman for this exact duel. The prize for winning this rigged fight? The buddy gets to force the Count's daughter into an arranged marriage with his deadbeat oldest son. Hearing this absolute garbage, the blonde girl shatters her teacup in pure horror. But her dad grabs her hands and swears on his honor that he will never let some scrub marry his little princess. The Count lays out the ultimate sugar daddy deal. If our boy acts like his son and wins this crazy duel, he gets a massive payout and total freedom. But Boris isn't buying it. He clenches his fists and asks the obvious question. Why pick a random stray off the street when he literally knows nothing about him? The mustache man stares through his glass and drops the facts. Sure, he could grab any random peasant off the street, but he needs someone who already knows which fork to use at a fancy dinner. Plus, he knows exactly who our boy is. The Jinman family are top-tier swordsmen, and judging by that glowing legendary blade sitting right next to him, the kid definitely inherited the family talent. The Count looks him dead in the eye and asks if he is ready to pack his bags. Boris goes quiet, weighing his options. On one hand, he could just go work for that sweaty blacksmith and live a boring, peaceful life hiding his identity. But on the other hand, Anomerad is a completely different world far away from all his trauma. Our boy weighs his options. Sure, heading to a brand new country means facing a whole new set of headaches and trials. But on the flip side, it means he finally gets to ditch Travach's for good. This bloodstained land has taken literally everything from him, his dad, his brother, his whole childhood. So he grabs his wrapped-up family sword and makes the only logical choice. He wants out. He steps right up into the fancy carriage where the blonde girl is waiting. Remembering his brother's dying wish for him to survive at all costs, our boy takes one last look over his shoulder and locks in. Next stop, Anomerad. The carriages roll out toward Anomerad. Inside, our boy is riding shotgun with the Count's daughter and her maid. The blonde girl is already bored out of her mind since our edgy protagonist has the conversational skills of a brick wall. She decides to break the ice. Since they are both 12 years old, she figures they should probably figure out the sibling dynamic before they get home. She asks him who is older, hoping to spark a whole debate. But our boy just hits her with a deadpan stare and tells her she can be the older sister if she wants. He literally could not care less. He just turns back to the window to watch the trees go by. The blonde girl is absolutely flabbergasted that he folded that easily. She tries to press him for his actual birthday, but he completely ignores her. The maid tries to hold back a laugh at her young mistress getting completely stonewalled as the carriages finally pull up to a massive flowery estate. Sun-drenched estate. The blonde girl immediately hops out and sprints toward her mother, completely ignoring the fact that she is wearing a fancy dress. Her mom, Izavo da Belnor, gives her a stern look and scolds her for running like a maniac, forcing the kid to quickly apologize. Meanwhile, our boy steps out and squints at the bright, unfamiliar surroundings. He realizes he is incredibly far from home, and absolutely nobody here knows who he is. Izavo spots him and asks her husband if this is the kid he mentioned in his letter. They decide to take the introductions inside while the servants handle the luggage. Inside the grand parlor, the group settles down for some tea. Izavo tells our boy that she got a heads up about his situation and tells him to just make himself comfortable. The blonde girl, whose name is Rose, excitedly peeks out from behind her mom and declares that she has officially decided to be the younger sibling, clearly thrilled to have a new older brother. Inside the grand parlor, the Count and his wife sit our boy down for a little family meeting. The Count gets right to business. He starts laying out the official cover story Boris needs to stick to while he is crashing at their fancy estate. According to the script, Boris is now the tragic youngest son of a fallen lord. He was supposedly adopted by the Belnors at age 5 because their families were tight. But he stayed with his real dad on their dime until the old man kicked the bucket, and that is why he is finally moving in. The Count rattles off a list of castle staff who know bits and pieces of this sob story. He mentions the secretary, the nurse, and a few guards. But he makes it crystal clear that only the 3 royals in this room know the actual truth, so Boris better not slip up and start trauma dumping to the maid. Boris nods along. He figures this fake tragic backstory is not too far off from his actual tragic backstory anyway. Satisfied, the Count orders a room prepped for his new fake son. He specifically requests the 2nd floor of the Moonshine Tower, and judging by the absolute shock on his wife's face, he just handed Boris the keys to the penthouse suite. The Count casually assigns our boy a room on the 2nd floor of the Moonshine Tower. This instantly drops the jaws of both his wife and daughter. The blonde girl realizes her dad is giving away the VIP suite. The Count just tells our exhausted protagonist to kick back and recover from the long carriage ride. The blonde girl immediately steps up to the plate. She asks her dad if her new older brother gets his own servant. The Count chuckles at her sudden sibling protective streak. He promises to line up the staff tomorrow morning so our boy can take his pick. Hearing this genuine fatherly warmth completely catches our traumatized protagonist off guard. He wonders if his own biological dad ever smiled at him like that. Escorted to a ridiculously luxurious guest bedroom, our boy finally gets a second to breathe. He leans his tired shoulder against the heavy wooden door. Sliding down to the floor, he clutches his wrapped sword like a security blanket. The social battery is officially at 0%. He remembers the blonde girl cheerfully telling him to crash here for the night. Looking around the pristine setup, he realizes this temporary guest room absolutely dunks on his actual bedroom back in his home territory. He wanders over to the massive window and stares out at the forest path they just traveled. The lush green scenery triggers a massive wave of nostalgia. He pictures his late older brother lounging in the grass. He wonders if this new estate has a perfect sunny hill just like the one they used to play on. But reality quickly crashes back down. He reminds himself that his homeland was a harsh frozen wasteland where only needlegrass survived. This place is full of warm flowers and smiling faces, but it is definitely not his home. Our boy's expression drops as the reality finally sets in. Sure, Anomerad is gorgeous and the people are nice, but it just does not hit the same without his brother. He steps out onto the sunlit balcony clutching his wrapped sword. No matter how pretty the flowers are, this place is still just a foreign land and he is entirely on his own. The next morning, our boy gets the VIP treatment. The blonde girl is already on duty as his personal tour guide, dragging him through the massive estate to show off his new digs. She tells him to stick close so he does not get lost in the sauce. Our guy just trails behind her with his usual blank stare as she leads him straight to the Southern Moonshine Tower. She throws open the double doors and our boy is absolutely stunned. The room is ridiculously luxurious. He asks if this massive suite is really all for him, and the girl just puffs out her chest like she built the place herself. Suddenly, a panicked maid comes skidding into the room begging for forgiveness. She completely lost track of her demanding little mistress, earning her a lethal glare from the blonde girl. Our boy notices the maid shaking in her boots and cannot help but compare it to his old life. Back in Travach's, the servants were basically family and definitely did not look at him like he was about to bite their heads off. The blonde girl throws open a set of massive doors to reveal a bedroom that screams old money. She proudly shows off the wardrobe, promising to teach him all the high society dress codes so he does not look like a total scrub. She casually drops that this VIP suite was actually promised to her for her 15th birthday, so he better not trash the place. Our boy silently notes how weirdly friendly she is being. She knows he is dipping out next year, but she is fully committing to the whole happy sibling act anyway. The grand tour continues through the massive estate. She drags him out to the balcony to flex the sunset view, then crashes the kitchen where the staff look absolutely terrified of her. Next up is a dining hall so ridiculously huge that she admits they usually just eat in a smaller room anyway. Running out of tourist traps, the blonde girl taps her chin trying to figure out what is left. Our boy spots a massive wall of books and realizes the study room is the next logical stop on this never-ending field trip. The grand tour continues into the massive study room. The blonde girl throws her arms wide, totally hyped about the giant collection of books her dad has hoarded. Our boy just stares quietly. He remembers how his own strict father used to spend all his time locked away in a study just like this, and in a weird twist he realizes he actually misses the old man now that he is gone. But the nostalgic vibes are instantly killed when the blonde girl's fist starts shaking with pure rage. She spots an intruder and completely loses her mind, screaming at a silver-haired kid who is just trying to get some light reading done. The caption box drops his name as Lanzi Rosencrantz, the Count's servant. She puffs her cheeks up like an angry blowfish and marches right over. She violently slaps the book straight out of his hands, screaming at him for sneaking in without permission. The poor maid in the background is just having a full-blown panic attack watching this spoiled kid throw a massive tantrum. The blonde girl aggressively pokes the silver-haired servant right in the forehead. She threatens to snitch to her dad and get him booted from the estate for sneaking into the study. Our boy just watches from the sidelines as the servant takes the abuse without a single flinch. He notes that this kid has a totally different vibe from the rest of the staff. He is completely unbothered by the yelling, and his apology sounds fake as hell. The blonde girl finally huffs and lets him off the hook just because they have company. The servant gives a polite bow and casually strolls past our boy. Locking eyes for a split second, our guy instantly realizes this silver-haired kid is definitely an outsider just like him. This sparks a quick flashback to when the Count first introduced him to the entire mansion staff. The Duke lays down the cover story thick, claiming he adopted the boy 7 years ago. After ordering the head butler to treat his new son like absolute royalty, the Duke pats our boy on the shoulder and tells him to take his pick from the lineup of personal servants. The Count gestures to a lineup of young servants and tells our dark-haired boy to take his pick, but his eyes immediately lock onto one specific kid in the back, a striking silver-haired boy with piercing red eyes. Our boy stares right back, already sensing a kindred spirit in this foreign land. The Count lines up the entire mansion staff like it is draft day and tells our boy to pick his very own personal servant. Boris locks eyes with the silver-haired kid from earlier. Now normally you would want a total meathead for a servant so they are easier to trick, but our boy is way too curious about this calm and collected kid he caught reading in the study. Playing it cool, Boris tells the Count he wants someone around his own age. The Count immediately points out the silver-haired kid at the end of the line, naming him Lanzi, and asks if that is the one. Boris locks it in with a quick yes. Lanzi steps right up and hits him with a textbook 90-degree bow, introducing himself as Lanzi Rosencrantz. The Count gives his new adopted son a supportive shoulder squeeze while Lanzi promises to serve him well. But Boris is already reading between the lines. Sure, the kid looks totally subservient on the surface, but our boy can tell there is absolutely zero actual respect hiding in that tone. Our boy realizes exactly why the blonde brat threw a fit earlier. This silver-haired kid might look subservient, but there is zero actual respect in his voice. The Count tells the kid to drop his chores and serve our boy, and the kid smoothly offers to show him to his room and give him the rundown. They head into a massive room that screams old money, and the kid tells our boy to take a seat on the fancy blue sofa. He slides a glass over, and our boy takes a quick sip while settling in for the orientation. The silver-haired kid starts spilling the tea on the Count's schedule. He explains that the big boss patrols the territory every 10 days and is constantly traveling to foreign lands or the capital, meaning he is barely ever at the castle. He also drops a quick warning that the Count treasures his people but is super strict and will not forgive anyone who crosses the line. Our boy just nods, thinking that totally checks out for the guy who saved him. The silver-haired servant gives our boy the rundown on the household dynamics. He warns him that the madam of the house is basically a walking landmine who takes offense to literally breathing wrong. Boris nods along, realizing this kid is basically telling him to walk on eggshells. The servant catches himself before he talks too much trash, though clearing his throat to save face. Boris respects the hustle, noting the kid is pretty slick at dodging trouble after getting caught slacking in the study earlier. Then the servant drops a bomb. There is a massive 2-day party coming up, complete with a fancy evening ball. He casually asks if our boy knows how to dance. Boris just stares at him, completely blanking. Back in his homeland, people only cared about stabbing each other in the throat, so ballroom dancing was definitely not on the curriculum. Seeing the absolute panic in his eyes, the silver-haired kid smoothly offers to teach him the ropes, leaving Boris sweating bullets. Trying to change the subject under the fancy chandelier, our boy starts interrogating his new servant. He asks what kind of work he has been doing around the castle and when exactly he joined the household. The kid looks down, clearly hiding some heavy baggage of his own. The silver-haired servant reveals he used to live in Celtica. Our boy immediately assumes the kid was sold off to a wealthy household to pay off some debts. When asked about his family, the servant just looks down and admits he has no idea how they're doing. Our boy instantly regrets prying. But the kid clarifies he isn't completely alone. He explains that the count was actually kind enough to take in his younger sister too, and she lives right here in the castle with him. The servant politely asks for a quick break to go check on her. Our boy, trying to build some rapport, offers to tag along. But the silver-haired kid instantly tenses up. He hesitates for a second before hitting our boy with the most out-of-pocket question ever. He asks if he's a gentleman. Our boy is left completely baffled, wondering what kind of weird test this is. After that weirdly intense question, they knock on a door. Inside sits Lanzi's little sister. She is just chilling by a bright window surrounded by white tulips, looking like a whole aesthetic. When she turns around, she rocks the exact same striking red eyes as her brother. Our boy and his new silver-haired servant step into a sunlit room to finally meet the kid's sister Lanzimi. But when he calls her name, she does not even flinch. She just sits by the window staring into the void like a literal wax figure. Our guy is totally thrown off by the 0% response rate. The servant politely asks his new master to take a seat for a second before dropping to his knees in front of his sister. He gently takes her hands and starts chatting away about the gorgeous weather outside. He tells her all about this pretty blue bird he spotted earlier and how its wings were sparkling in the sunlight. He just really wanted to share that little slice of joy with her. Our protagonist watches this wholesome interaction unfold and is honestly stunned. He never expected this composed and slightly sassy servant to have such a soft side. The guy is just pouring out all the good vibes from his day, trying to remind his sister that the world still has beautiful things to offer. Our boy realizes that despite the silver-haired servant's icy exterior, he actually has a soft spot. He watches as the kid kneels gently before his sister, who just stares blankly ahead like a soulless wax figure. The servant suggests she take an afternoon nap, talking about dreaming of gathering some weird flowers. Our boy is just standing there completely lost, realizing these two share a secret language he is definitely not privy to. The silver-haired kid scoops his sister up, tucks her into bed with a warm smile, and wishes her sweet dreams. But the second he turns back around, that smile drops faster than my crypto portfolio, and he is back to his usual serious self. Later at the estate, the blonde brat is throwing a whole tantrum, declaring she absolutely hates the silent sister. When our boy asks why, she complains that the girl can talk but just chooses not to, and her dead fish eyes make the brat want to flick her right in the forehead. The blonde brat is throwing a full-blown tantrum. She limps around the room, mocking the silent sister for doing absolutely nothing all day. But the second the maid mentions cream cake, her mood does a complete 180, and she is ready to sprint to the dining room. Before she dips, she complains that the siblings need to be way more grateful for their cushy setup. Our boy casually mentions that a highly skilled but eccentric sword instructor is arriving soon. This immediately catches the brat's attention. She spins around, bragging that she might be a natural prodigy since she is the count's daughter. Our boy just side-eyes her, wondering if anyone could actually teach a kid with an ego that massive. Later, our boy takes a stroll through the sunny estate grounds. He realizes his body is getting stiff from being cooped up inside, and worries he is going to get absolutely cooked during swordsmanship training. A falling leaf catches his eye, and he spots a ripe walnut tree. He debates climbing it, hoping it will not violate some strict noble etiquette rule. It makes him nostalgic for the days when his older brother would just hoist him onto his shoulders to grab the fruit. Suddenly, a barrage of walnuts rains down from above. Our boy looks up in pure confusion as the branches rustle violently. His PTSD immediately kicks in. He starts sweating bullets, wondering if another terrifying lake monster is about to drop out of the canopy to ruin his day. A walnut cracks open on the ground right next to him. But instead of a bloodthirsty demon, a random dude with a ponytail is just chilling up in the branches. The guy flashes a cheeky grin and casually asks if our boy likes walnuts. The kid lets out a massive sigh of relief. He actually chuckles at his own paranoia, realizing it is just a regular human and not a nightmare creature out for his soul. But his relief lasts exactly 2 seconds. The tree guy violently shakes the branches to drop a massive payload of nuts right on his head and yells at him to start gathering them. The dude then drops down and complains that the kid is slacking, leaving our boy completely dumbfounded by the sheer audacity of this shameless stranger. The guy stretches out his arms and casually demands our boy help him pick up the mess. He complains that it would take him all day to gather these walnuts by himself, so the kid better start pulling his weight. Talk about a shameless introduction. Up in the branches, this eccentric guy in a green cloak demands our boy help him gather the fallen walnuts. He wonders if he has something on his face since the kid is just staring at him like he grew a second head. As the boy reaches for a green unshelled nut, the man quickly warns him that touching the raw shells will give him nasty blisters. The advice hits close to home, reminding our boy of something his late brother Yevgen used to say. Still, he cannot believe he just got roped into doing free yard work for a total stranger. The guy considers shaking the tree a bit more to maximize their loot, and soon enough they have a massive sack packed to the brim. The man slings the heavy bag over his shoulder and sets off, leaving the kid to jog up the hill just to keep pace. In the distance, a massive luxurious castle looms over the tree line. The man asks if the kid knows who lives there, hyping it up as the estate of the second most powerful noble household in the region. He glances back in total confusion when the boy does not seem impressed in the slightest. Our boy pieces the puzzle together pretty quick. A guy lugging a giant sword straight toward the Belnor estate has to be the new combat instructor arriving today. Since the guy clearly has no clue he is talking to the Count's newly adopted son, Boris decides to play along. Getting chummy with his future teacher before the formal noble etiquette kicks in is just a smart tactical move. The eccentric swordsman happily pats his giant sack of raw walnuts, claiming a good guest never shows up empty-handed. Boris just smiles and asks if literally any random junk counts as a present these days. The two banter back and forth about proper gift-giving etiquette as they stroll right up to the massive front gates of the Belnor castle. Time for the big flex. Boris clears his throat and hits the guards with his best authoritative noble voice, ordering them to announce a guest to his father. The guards immediately bow in deep respect. Our boy glances back, fully expecting the walnut guy to be absolutely floored by his secret VIP status. Instead, the dude just hits him with a knowing smirk. Yeah, this guy totally knew who Boris was the entire time. Before Boris can even process the embarrassment of getting outplayed, a castle servant approaches to escort them inside, announcing that the Count and his daughter are already waiting in the reception room. Inside the fancy reception room, the eccentric guy takes a seat with the Count and the kids. He flashes a smug grin and immediately dumps his entire sack of raw green walnuts right onto the pristine coffee table. He spins a massive cap to the blonde girl, claiming these are magical fruits of secrets. He tells her that eating just one will age her up a whole year, meaning she could hit 20 overnight if she downs 8 of them. Our boy just stares at him, sweating at the sheer audacity of this lie. He quickly realizes the guy somehow already knew the girl was exactly 12 years old, but figures the Count must have briefed him beforehand. The dude just drops a cheeky wink. The gullible girl actually considers eating the bitter nuts to skip puberty, but her dad quickly shuts it down, warning her that touching them barehanded will literally give her blisters. The Count then officially introduces his newly adopted son and his daughter to their new sword teacher. The guy casually admits his current name is totally fake anyway and decides to rebrand himself on the spot as Instructor Walnut. The Count just rolls with the weird energy and thanks the nutty guy for accepting the job. The Count asks if they are kicking off the sword lessons today. The eccentric new instructor just smirks and declines. He wants to spend the day getting familiar with the kids and requests permission to drop the formal titles during training. The Count gives him the green light and the man stands up. He tells our boy to show him to his room so they can have a little chat. Boris just stares up at him like he is dealing with a crazy person. The silver-haired servant suddenly walks in carrying a plate of snacks. The instructor casually pops a walnut in his mouth and tells the kid he looks way too fancy to be a servant. He even offers to teach him some sword skills, but the servant politely shuts him down. The instructor playfully complains that his generous offer is being totally wasted. Chilling in the lounge, the man asks our boy if he knows the name of this fancy tower. He reminds the kid that he is the instructor here, but internally our boy is just annoyed. This guy has done absolutely zero teaching so far. All he does is complain about the kid's messy hair and try to recruit the servant. Our boy gives him a blank stare. The instructor rubs his chin with a serious look and suddenly drops a massive bomb. He asks the kid if he is originally from Travachis. Our boy completely freezes up in shock since that is his biggest secret. The instructor suddenly asks our boy if he's from Travachis. Boris flinches for a second but quickly realizes this actually lines up perfectly with the fake backstory the Count cooked up for him. The guy just laughs and casually drops that Boris obviously isn't blood related to the Count's blonde daughter. He points out she's the real deal, making Boris the adopted one. Our boy narrows his eyes, wondering if this dude is just messing with him or if he actually knows something. Then the instructor turns his attention to the silver-haired servant boy. He smugly boasts that he's got a literal superpower that lets him guess anyone's exact age. Boris just internally rolls his eyes, figuring the Count probably just told him beforehand. But then the guy confidently declares that the servant is 12 years old and actually older than Boris by a few months. Boris does the quick math in his head, realizing that since he was born in July, the silver-haired kid must have a birthday earlier in the year. And judging by the absolute shock on the servant's face, the instructor hit the nail right on the head. Boris is absolutely baffled. The eccentric instructor just nailed the age difference perfectly. Our boy assumes the guy will mess up since he heard the blonde girl call him older brother, but nope. The instructor casually drops that she was born exactly 3 months earlier. This leaves Boris completely stunned and wondering if this weird guy is actually psychic or just incredibly observant. The instructor then turns his full attention to our disguised protagonist. He smugly declares that the kid has some serious hidden talent and could become an amazing swordsman with the right training. Boris is highly skeptical of this bold claim and wonders if this weirdo can really just tell that at a single glance. Not holding back, our boy straight up asks what lying and swordsmanship have in common. The instructor gets a little defensive and argues that just being good with a weapon is not the whole picture. Tapping his temple, he explains that true combat skill requires quick instincts and the raw intelligence to adapt to any unpredictable situation. Pointing right at him, the instructor breaks down his manipulation tactics to prove his point. He uses the blonde girl as a prime example, explaining that his ridiculous lies about magical walnuts worked instantly because he easily read her desperate desire to be treated like a grown-up. The eccentric instructor finishes his little age guessing game and immediately hits a massive yawn. He stretches his arms out, complains about being tired from talking too much, and just casually dips to take a nap. He leaves our blue-haired boy and the dark-haired girl sitting there completely dumbfounded. Like, what just happened? Meanwhile, at a ruined mansion looking like a haunted house at sunset, inside the dark halls, the new master of the estate, that long-haired guy in the green coat, stares out the window and notes that summer is officially over. His subordinate, the scarred butler Tulk, reports in and calls him master. The green-coated guy scoffs at how easily Tulk drops the title. He knows full well this butler just betrayed his own brother Jerkin to switch sides. But hey, he figures a backstabbing traitor might just be the perfect partner in crime for him right now. Meanwhile, back at the ruined estate, the traitorous butler reports that our boy has fled to Anomerad with the legendary sword. The new master of the house orders him to track the kid down and secure the rest of the family treasures. The two-faced servant bows to his new boss and heads out to do his dirty work. Left alone, the green-coated villain smirks to himself. He mocks his dead brother for having such a disloyal servant, noting how easily the butler used his magic to betray his former master and throw him to the wolves just to save his own skin. He laughs maniacally, celebrating his hostile takeover of the mansion and the fact that his sister's vengeful spirit is nowhere to be found. But his victory lap is cut short when a sudden ominous chill grips his heart. The grandfather clock and chandelier start chiming loudly, echoing through the empty halls. He complains about the sickening noise, muttering his dead brother's name as the candles flicker in the dark. Later that night at the castle, our boy is just chilling in bed. He thinks about how weird his new sword instructor is and admits he probably would have slept the whole day away if his new servant boy had not woken him up. With lessons starting tomorrow, he knows he needs to lock in. Even if this whole adopted son gig is just a fake deal to win a bet for the count, he resolves to fight his hardest. It is the only way he is going to survive this crazy world. But to survive, he needs his gear. He reaches under the bed to grab his legendary family sword, but grabs absolutely nothing. He drops to the floor and frantically sweeps his hands over the rug, but comes up empty. The Winterer is completely gone. Panic instantly sets in. He sprints down the dark castle corridors, completely losing his mind over the fact that he just lost his family's most priceless heirloom. The guilt hits him like a truck. It has not even been a month since he buried his older brother, and he can still vividly remember his dying words. He curses himself for letting his guard down so easily and stops dead in his tracks, wondering if he is just destined to be a useless failure. Our boy goes into full panic mode. The sword didn't just grow legs and walk away. It was stashed under his bed all day, meaning the thief had to be someone who actually stepped foot in his room. He runs the suspect list in his head. There is himself, his new servant boy, and that shady new sword instructor. Boris kicks himself for being an absolute clown. How could he just leave a total stranger alone in his room? He doesn't even know the guy's real deal yet. Realizing he is on a ticking clock, he sprints down the hallway to track the guy down before his family heirloom is gone for good. He barges into his servant's room in the dead of night, panting like he just ran a marathon. He apologizes for the rude awakening, but says he desperately needs a hand. The silver-haired kid doesn't even blink, just politely asks what he needs. Boris orders him to help track down the walnut-obsessed instructor right this second, and the kid immediately agrees. But before they go sprinting into the cold night, the servant grabs a heavy cloak. He wraps it around our boy, telling him he cannot just run around dressed like that. As he adjusts the fabric, he spots the shiny dagger Boris is gripping for dear life. He questions the weapon for a split second, but decides it is above his pay grade and just leads the way out. They bust into the instructor's room, but the guy is nowhere to be found. Our boy frantically tears the place apart, checking under the sheets and throwing open the wardrobe. But it is no use. The sword is gone, and he is dead certain that eccentric old man swiped it. As they hustle down the moonlit hallway, Boris starts sweating, wondering if the guy has already made a run for it. The silver-haired servant calmly explains that while the main gates are locked tight, the north gate is wide open, even if it is crawling with security. They head out into the massive garden maze. As they close in on the gate, Boris grips the dagger hidden under his cloak. He is ready to throw down if things go south. If he cannot even protect the last memento his brother and father left him, he figures he does not even deserve his family name. But despite his tough inner monologue, the anxiety starts eating at him. What if the thief is already gone? What if he is too late to catch him? He is spiraling into a full-blown panic when his servant suddenly stops him dead in his tracks. Our boy's eyes go wide. Out in the moonlit garden, the eccentric new sword instructor is casually swinging the stolen Winterer around like it is a glow stick at a rave. The icy blade cuts through the night air with terrifying power, and the dude looks way too comfortable holding it. Hiding in the bushes, the silver-haired servant holds up a candle and whispers the sword's name in absolute shock. He takes one look at the glowing weapon and instantly realizes this is not your average piece of metal. The star-shaped guard radiates pure menace. The servant notes it looks like a blade with a seriously dark history, and our boy is sweating bullets because he knows he is absolutely right. This is the true terrifying nature of his family heirloom. The instructor holds the legendary weapon up to the full moon. It shines with a mix of brilliant beauty and raw bloodlust, looking like a fleeting meteor shower. Our boy covers his mouth in awe. Seeing it wielded like this, he finally understands the heavy burden his brother was carrying. But as captivated as he is by the glowing blade, playtime is officially over. The instructor's sharp instincts kick in. He turns around with a stern glare and tells the boys that if they are done creeping in the bushes, it is time for them to leave. Busted. The eccentric instructor catches our duo spying on his midnight training session. He tells them to scram if they are done gawking at his shiny new toy. But our boy Boris is not about to let his family heirloom get jacked by a guy named after a nut. He steps up and demands the sword back. The instructor just smirks and asks if the kid is really about to pull the Finder's Keeper's card on him. Boris boldly calls him a straight-up thief. The instructor actually respects the disrespect. He flashes a menacing grin and warns the brat that a child has absolutely no business holding a blade like this. Until you are fully grown, all a sword is going to do is seek your blood. The playful vibe instantly vanishes. The instructor gets dead serious and demands to know exactly how a kid got his hands on this specific weapon. He recognizes it as the legendary Sword of Winter. He looks right through the fake identity and drops the ultimate lore bomb. He knows this is the Winterer, and he knows it belongs to the fallen Gineman household of Travashis. Our boy is absolutely locked in. He demands his family heirloom back, but the eccentric sword instructor is not just going to hand over a legendary glowing blade to a kid. The ponytail guy grips the Winterer tightly, looking down at his new student with a dead serious glare. He knows exactly what this sword is and the blood it craves. Boris refuses to back down and declares he will get it back no matter what. The instructor just smirks and challenges him to try and take it. Our boy starts sweating bullets. He knows his stats are way too low to win a head-on fight against this guy. But he would rather catch a game over than lose his brother's sword, so he whips out a tiny dagger and prepares to throw hands anyway. The sheer audacity actually makes the grown man flinch. He stands there in the moonlit field for a second, processing the fact that this 12-year-old is ready to crash out over a sword. Then he absolutely loses it. He bursts into a massive fit of laughter, wiping a tear from his eye, while Boris and his silver-haired servant just stand there completely baffled. The instructor squats down to eye level, admitting it is incredibly rare to find a kid with this much raw grit these days. The instructor suddenly squats down, making our boy flinch back with his tiny dagger like a cornered cat. But instead of attacking, the guy just flashes a warm smile, leaving the kid completely baffled. He admits he kinda brought this whole distrust thing on himself, but he has a deal. He promised the count he would teach him, so he is going to give the kid one chance every single day to snatch the sword back. If he pulls it off, the guy swears he will never lay a finger on Winterer again. But if he fails before the instructor dips, well, it is game over. Our boy thinks back to his dead brother and the heavy burden he left behind. He has to survive no matter what. He has to protect that sword like his life depends on it, living like some kind of immortal just to keep his promise. Not fully buying it, he asks the guy how he plans to prove this little wager. The instructor just casually yeets a dagger at him as a token. Our boy catches it and inspects the blade, spotting some creepy runes engraved on the metal that translate to "Remember the Disaster." Yeah, not ominous at all. Our boy is still gripping his dagger for dear life, but the eccentric instructor just squats down and flashes a surprisingly warm smile. He promises he isn't going to steal the kid's stuff or chop him into pieces. Boris is still on high alert, totally caught off guard by the sudden vibe shift. That is when the silver-haired servant boy chimes in. He calmly suggests that Boris should just take the crazy old man's deal. As Boris clutches the newly acquired dagger, a sudden surge of light flashes across the night sky. He looks up in absolute awe at the shooting stars. For the first time in a long time, he realizes he does not feel any despair or humiliation about being forced into this crazy contract. The eccentric swordsman stands back up with a massive grin. Looking at this weirdly charismatic guy, Boris realizes that he might have just found the perfect guide to lead him out of his pitch-black nightmare. Clutching the blade to his chest, Boris turns to leave with his servant. He tells the old man that he better keep his word like a true warrior. The instructor just smiles and agrees, saying he is a warrior just like the kid's name implies. The instructor stands there bathed in this crazy ethereal glow, and in that exact moment our boy realizes something massive. Looking up at this weirdly profound dude, Boris feels like he just found the cheat code to escape his endless nightmare. He finally has the key in the door to get out of the dark. For the first time since his entire world fell apart, the scenery around him isn't just doom and gloom. It is actually filling up with a little thing called hope. Out on the training grounds, the eccentric instructor tosses our boy a basic practice sword, courtesy of the Count. But the second the kid tries to unsheath it, the instructor shuts him down. He points straight to the dirt track and orders him to start running laps. No swordplay today, just pure cardio until he says stop. As the dark-haired kid starts his marathon, the silver-haired servant steps up to the plate. He stares the instructor down and coldly requests that his master's original glowing sword be returned to him soon. While his master sweats it out in the background, the servant warns the smirking instructor that if he keeps messing around with these petty tests, he is going to start doubting his true intentions. The brown-haired man leans in close, calling the kid a brat for daring to threaten him. He casually drops that the only reason he is putting the boy through the ringer is because he flat out does not trust him yet. The silver-haired boy drops some philosophical heat, stating that all humans have to prove their worth. The brown-haired instructor just laughs, amused that a mere servant is talking so big. He tells the kid he is interested in observing him now, and invites the boy to watch him back and see the results for himself. But the servant is ice cold. He tells the guy not to act like he is the one giving permission, then casually walks off to prep water for his master. The instructor is left scratching his head, completely baffled by this kid's concept of free will. Meanwhile, out in the courtyard, our dark-haired boy is putting in the work. He is 10 laps deep and panting like a dog, wondering when his new teacher is actually going to show up. The guy said he would only be gone for a minute, but he is nowhere to be found. For a second, the boy wonders if he is just getting trolled, but he quickly shakes off the doubt. He knows this has to be a test, and he is not about to fail. Our boy is convinced this endless cardio is all part of the eccentric instructor's grand test. He has to prove he is the only one worthy of wielding the Winterer, so he pushes himself to the absolute limit, running laps until his lungs are screaming. But sheer willpower only gets you so far when your stamina bar hits 0. One misstep and he goes down hard, eating a massive mouthful of premium anomerad dirt. He tries to force himself back up. His inner monologue is going crazy, hyping him up to survive no matter what the situation is. But his physical body just hits the snooze button and he completely collapses flat on his face again. Suddenly he gets a very rude awakening. The silver-haired servant boy is standing over him with a towel, having just splashed him with cold water to force a hard reboot on his system. Since he just got splashed with water to wake up, our boy realizes he cannot let his precious sword get wet. He drops the heavy blade on the dirt and gets back to his cardio grind, figuring his eccentric new teacher will at least feel a little bad for him when he gets back. Yeah, that is a negative. The ponytail instructor rolls back up with the blonde girl and immediately loses his absolute mind. He screams at the kid for dropping his weapon, asking if he thinks this is a track and field meet. He only teaches swordplay and tells the boy he is straight up pathetic if he thinks he can learn anything with a mindset that abandons a blade just because it is a little heavy. Knowing he messed up big time, the dark-haired kid does not even try to make excuses. He just quietly picks his sword back up, drops to one knee and asks for his punishment. The instructor glares down at him and coldly agrees to dish one out. He orders the exhausted kid to run 12 laps every single day from now on until he leaves the estate. Despite his lungs screaming for mercy, our boy just bows his head and politely thanks him for the discipline. Having laid down the law, the instructor instantly flips his mood like a light switch. He flashes a goofy smile that totally startles the blonde girl and cheerfully asks if they should finish up her training. But as he walks away leaving the kid in the dust, he glances back over his shoulder at the silver-haired servant checking on our boy. The instructor scratches his head, suddenly feeling super guilty and wondering why he just raged at the kid for absolutely no reason. The ponytail guy scratches his head, suddenly realizing he might have overreacted just a tiny bit. He watches the silver-haired servant hand our boy some water and wonders why he actually got so heated over a basic training exercise. Guess the kid's crazy dedication is already getting under his skin. A whole month flies by and our boy is still out here grinding. He is swinging that wooden sword like his life depends on it, just sweating buckets under the cloudy sky. The blonde girl watches him from the sidelines. She points out that it looks like rain and the eccentric instructor agrees. He calls an end to the outdoor session. But she knows if they just leave our boy out here, he is going to get absolutely drenched continuing his solo grind. So she pitches a brilliant idea to the instructor. Why not bring the sweaty kid inside for a chat, and more importantly, snacks? The instructor mulls it over, but she is already sold on the idea. She is practically beaming at the thought of a tea party. Cut to a spread of fancy pastries that look way too good for a post-workout meal. Inside the lavish drawing room, the whole crew gathers around the table. The blonde girl is mind-blown by whatever the instructor is yapping about. She asks if it is even possible. The brown-haired man starts dropping some deep analogies about starving people stuffing their faces. He compares it to human ambition. The girl chimes in with her own privileged take. The instructor just hits them with that knowing smirk, ready to drop some more reality checks on these sheltered kids. The instructor drops some deep philosophy on the kids, explaining how human ambition is basically a bottomless pit. Even when people are stuffed full of success, they just keep gorging themselves, always wanting to climb higher no matter how much treasure they have hoarded. He leans in, asking when that hunger is ever truly satisfied. The blonde girl completely misses the point, asking him what his ultimate wish is. She figures once you get that one big thing, you are set for life, bragging that her rich dad just buys her whatever she points at anyway. But the instructor calls her bluff, asking if there is anything daddy's money can't buy. He paints a picture of her future coming-of-age ceremony, teasing that she will be the most beautiful lady in the palace, drowning in marriage proposals from thirsty nobles. The thought alone has her blushing so hard she practically short-circuits. With the girl thoroughly flustered, the instructor turns his attention to our quiet boy, asking him to spill his deepest desire before he reveals his own. Our boy hesitates for a second, his eyes narrowing as he actually thinks about what he needs most in this messed-up world. Our boy reflects on his current setup. Sure, he has a roof over his head in this beautiful, peaceful castle with friendly servants, but he knows deep down none of this actually belongs to him. He remembers the blonde girl and the glowing sword. He feels incredibly vulnerable right now, like a kid thrown into an enemy camp who could get taken out at any second. Sitting alone with his family heirloom, he asks himself the million-dollar question: what does he actually need most in order to survive this messed-up world? Back at the tea table, the eccentric instructor asks our quiet, blue-haired boy to share his greatest wish. Our boy thinks for a second before dropping the most depressing answer ever. He just wants the ability to live by himself and never have to ask anyone for help. The instructor just smirks and says that is way easier to accomplish than the blonde girl's wish, because at least he will not have any competitors. He then immediately pivots back to roasting the girl by bringing up a rival bride candidate, which sends her into an absolute panic. The instructor drops a bomb on the blonde girl, casually mentioning that some duke's daughter is already being hailed as the top bride candidate in high society. Our girl absolutely loses her mind at the thought of a rival. Our boy just sighs, knowing the guy is totally messing with her. He gives the instructor a look to knock it off, and the guy finally pivots with a smug little smirk. He asks if they know who the strongest knight in the country is. When they draw a blank, he drops some lore, introducing heavy hitters like Viscount Ganfear and this kid Bernard, who's already famous up north. He mentions Bernard even won the Silver Skull tournament. When our boy asks what that is, the instructor explains it's a massive under-20 martial arts competition where the winner gets a literal silver skull and continent-wide clout. He makes sure to throw a little shade, noting no one from their home region has ever taken the W. Our boy takes that in while the instructor keeps listing off absolute units across the map, from fierce princesses to ruthless mercenary corps, making it clear that the world is packed with monsters. The blonde girl munches on a cookie and hopes their country's warriors are the absolute strongest, but our boy is just built different. He flat out says he doesn't care about anyone else as long as they aren't actively trying to kill him. The instructor leans in with a grin. He asks the kid if he has ever felt that classic protagonist urge to get stronger than everyone else or copy their moves. Our boy just stares blankly at the table. He looks the man dead in the eye and asks why he would ever want to be that strong. He just wants to survive, not become the next Hokage. Outside the rainy estate, our boy is having a serious existential crisis over tea. He straight up asks why he even needs to get that strong. He is chilling with the blonde noble girl and his eccentric sword instructor, but his mind is completely checked out. The instructor gives him that intense side-eye, wondering why this kid lacks any real ambition. Our dark-haired protagonist drops the most pragmatic logic ever. He figures the odds of him actually running into the world's strongest fighters are basically zero, and the odds of them wanting to kill him are even lower. So he is perfectly content just learning enough sword skills to not die and live a safe, boring life. The swordmaster scoffs at this bare minimum mindset and asks if his only goal in life is literally just breathing. Our boy does not even hesitate and drops a cold, hard yes. The two lock eyes in a tense stare down. The instructor is trying to read this traumatized kid's soul while our boy refuses to budge an inch. The older man leans back and repeats the boy's depressing logic. He realizes this kid does not even think he is allowed the luxury of a real life. He paints a grim picture of the boy's mindset. He just wants to keep his head down and live a quiet life without ever defying fate or drawing any unwanted attention. The instructor metaphorically points a giant finger right at his chest and asks if he has zero dignity left. He demands to know if the kid really wants to die without leaving a single mark on this world. The eccentric instructor asks if our boy ever wanted to go out with a bang. You know, bloom brightly like a flower at its peak and leave a legacy behind. Boris is sweating bullets. The words are hitting way too close to home. He just clenches his fist in silence. The instructor keeps pushing. He says there is zero point in just surviving to look pretty like a stuffed specimen. He doesn't want to just burn out or live on as a memory. Boris squeezes his eyes shut as the guilt eats him alive. He thinks back to that lonely field where his older brother's life ended. What is the point of just remembering him if he doesn't actually live for himself? The instructor drops the hammer, asking how many people have died just so he could stand here today. Lightning flashes as the question strikes a massive nerve. Our boy looks away, admitting he can't even name them all. The instructor tells him straight up that he is trying to carry the weight of way too many ghosts. No matter how hard he tries, he cannot live their lives for them. The instructor hits him with a food analogy. He asks if our boy is just going to sit there and stare at a plate of snacks when he is absolutely starving. That strikes a nerve. Our dark-haired kid snaps back, asking what the point even is. He wants to know what actually changes if he grinds his way to the top and slaughters every great warrior on the continent. Even if he pulls off the ultimate revenge tour, the dead are not coming back to life. The eccentric teacher just scoffs at the outburst. He tells the kid he is dead wrong. Valuing your own life based entirely on ghosts and calling that living is just straight up absurd. He wants to know if the kid has any actual personal ambitions left in the tank. Our boy flashes back to his tragic childhood. He admits there was a time when he desperately wanted all those things. He prayed for his household to stay safe and for his older brother to survive the bloodbath. But after losing everything, he is just too tired to wish for anything else. Our boy is officially out of wishes. He is so traumatized that he has completely lost interest in anything other than just staying alive. But as he remembers the silver-haired kid telling him to actually experience life, he trudges through the snow and starts to wonder if just surviving all by himself is actually completely meaningless. Back in the cozy tea room, the blonde girl is totally confused why anyone would call him poor when he literally lives in a mansion now. The instructor agrees, but then immediately challenges our boy. He asks if a little bad weather is going to stop him from going out tonight, adding that he can just quit right now if he doesn't have the guts. But our boy is not about to back down from some rain. He stands right up, completely ignoring the blonde girl telling him to just take a break. Meanwhile, his silver-haired buddy is already getting his gloves on, ready to back him up whatever he decides to do. Out in the pouring rain, the silver-haired kid watches from the sidelines as our boy gears up for another brutal sparring session. The eccentric instructor lays down the law. If our boy can just manage to touch his stolen sword within an hour, they can call it a day. That is all the motivation he needs. His eyes flash with pure determination as he vows to take back his family heirloom right here and now. He kicks off the wet ground and charges straight at the older man, gripping his practice blade tight and ready to throw down. He swings with everything he has, but the instructor easily catches the strike with a simple wooden staff, barely breaking a sweat. The kid charges in with everything he has, but the instructor just swats him away like a pesky mosquito. The impact sends shockwaves up the boy's arms and leaves his hands trembling. He knows this weak approach isn't going to cut it. He needs to seriously level up. Gripping his hilt until his knuckles turn white, he screams for more. He throws himself back into the meat grinder. He is absolutely determined to get strong enough so that no one can ever snatch his precious sword away again. He blocks a heavy swing from the instructor and mentally tells the guy to get out of his way. But raw determination doesn't magically equal skill, and he gets dumped right back on the wet pavement. He drags himself up, completely drained and panting in the downpour. The frustration finally boils over. He just wants a safe haven where he doesn't have to constantly look over his shoulder. A place where he can finally let the tears fall, because right now he is trapped in a world where showing even a hint of weakness gets you killed. Out in the pouring rain, our boy is locked in. He grips his wooden training sword like his life depends on it, because right now it kind of does. He wants his family heirloom back, and he is not taking no for an answer. He dashes straight at the eccentric instructor. He unleashes a wild flurry of strikes, but the older guy just casually parries every single one with a wooden staff. The dude even has the nerve to smile and hit him with a condescending good. Our boy grits his teeth, pushing through the absolute exhaustion. Meanwhile, the silver-haired servant boy watches the whole brutal sparring match from the dry safety of the porch. Out in the mud, our dark-haired protagonist gets knocked back, but he instantly springs right back to his feet. He wipes the rain and grime off his face, refusing to stay down. The silver-haired kid just stares, holding a dry towel, looking genuinely concerned that his new master is about to get folded like a lawn chair. The instructor screams out that this is his last chance. He swings his staff with some serious heat, and our boy barely manages to bring his sword up in time to block. The impact sends shockwaves through his arms, leaving him trembling and struggling to hold his ground against the massive difference in strength. Our boy is getting absolutely cooked out here in the rain. He barely blocks a heavy strike and grunts under the pressure. He is struggling to hold his ground against the instructor's wooden staff, looking like a wet kitten fighting a bear. But he is not throwing in the towel just yet. His eyes flash with that main character determination. He is locked in on getting his family heirloom back, and he charges forward ready to risk it all. The sudden burst of aggro actually catches the old man off guard. Our boy swings down with everything he has got. He grips the hilt for dear life and grits his teeth as he puts his entire soul into this one desperate strike.